How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Open the Gates. I'm your host, Matt Burke, and tonight we're going to be having on Pete Samedi. He's going to be talking about King CRYPTID. So if you guys could give a warm welcome to Pete, that'd be awesome. Pete, man, what's up?
What's up? Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, man, how's your Friday been going, man?
It's been going good. I mean, it could be worse, which is it's
Right?
good to say that it's not.
Could be raining.
I had pizza for dinner. It doesn't get better than that.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. Pizza's always good. Yeah, man, I don't know what type of pizza you guys have over here, but yeah, man, there's a lot of different types. I'm a pizza fiend myself.
Oh yeah, yeah. The only there's no real bad kind of pizza. The variations. I definitely have my preferences, but I've never not had pizza and when I really shouldn't have eaten that.
Right? Oh
But
yeah,
yeah, we
man.
got a nice big 19-inch pie, and it's really good.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet, man.
So what about
Um,
you, man? How are things going?
Pretty good, man. Just working, doing commissions, doing a little side gigs. So it's just doing multitasking, doing a bunch of things. So that's been fun. I've been doing this show once a week, and yeah, doing the horror movie club with Brian. So that's been pretty fun. Christgau. Um, yeah, man, just lots of irons in the fire, I guess.
Good.
Just staying busy, I guess.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's the key, right? I mean, busy's better than not busy.
Right? You gotta be, man. I guess I've been talking to you probably like for a few years now, or maybe more or less. I know who you are, but maybe you could tell me a little bit, or the audience, people that might not know who you are, a little bit about yourself.
Oh boy. Do you want to ask specific questions?
Oh, um,
Any specific thing I should let them know?
what anything you want.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm the founder publisher of Alternate Comics. We've been around for 17 years, and I'm finally getting back to be able to do my own comic again, my own series. It's an ongoing series called King CRYPTID. Basically, a supernatural hero that lives in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. It's a cryptid, of course, so it's kind of like a monster creature sort of book. I describe it as like a monster and mystery book. The way they got sword and sorcery, well, this is
Yeah,
monster and mystery.
sweet.
Every single issue is kind of a self-contained story. Not too many story arc, 3-part, 4-part kind of things. Very episodic in nature, which is basically the comics I grew up with, and even all the stories I really loved, like that are on TV, Batman the Animated Series,
Yeah, man.
all that kind of stuff, where you could kind of get into the whole thing at any point in time, and the reason you want to keep up with it is because you just enjoyed the one that you watched or you read, and that's basically the whole premise of King CRYPTID, is telling these different stories. It's a monster of the issue kind of a thing, but there's a lot to it in terms of like a subplot, in terms of overarching elements where there's a continuity and there's a world that gets organically built. I find that a lot of comics nowadays, in the mainstream at least, it's very event driven. So there isn't really too much organic world building anymore, which is why when things go astray, they reboot the whole world, which makes you feel
Right?
kind of like you spent a lot of time and money for nothing.
Yeah, totally.
Because these characters that you know and love, and they kind of become real to you in a sense.
Right.
All of a sudden, it really slaps you in the face of just how not real any of this is. And of course, we all know fiction is not real, but the things that we feel, the stories that we read, how they impact us, that's real.
Yeah.
I think that everybody can say that they've been inspired by fictional stories, fictional characters, maybe moments of adversity in your life. You think upon characters you love and what they went through, and it gives you strength, or it gives you kind of the will to persevere and that sort of thing. I mean, these things are timeless. This is basically as old as human existence. So King CRYPTID, the heart of it is basically getting back to that with comics and making sure that I'm telling stories that me as a, I don't know, a teenager or a kid when I was growing up reading comics, that I could have got into it at that point in time. So if someone's out there, and because it's not an all ages book per se, because
Right.
all ages has become such a weird thing nowadays.
Yeah.
It's become like it's made for kids. All
Yeah.
ages, it truly means like a reader of all ages could enjoy this. And that's comics were that for such a long time. Then it started becoming very subcategorized into everything is so, it's this specific age and that specific genre and this.
Yeah.
We tell all kinds of stories in King Cryptid. If you're 8 years old, you can enjoy it. If you're 80 years old, you can enjoy it. It's just a real fun series, and I think people are going to enjoy it. And there's so many characters, there's so many settings. It takes place in a world that's just like ours. Like I said, he's in New Hampshire, so it's not like something that's a fictional city or anything like that, like Gotham or Metropolis or whatever.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun, and it's been so much fun making it with all the different artists. And I hope that people that read the book, which is going to be out very, very soon, I hope they have a lot of fun reading it too.
That's awesome, man. Like I remember when you're doing like little breadcrumbs of the character, like little shows, like here and there, and eventually you unveiled him, and I was just like, wow, that's an iconic looking character. I haven't really seen nothing like that.
Yeah.
Really, a lot of art, a lot of fan art, a lot of people drawing it. It's a really cool character, man. Really awesome design. I think it's badass.
Thank you, man.
I'm thinking you're probably sitting on that character for a couple years, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. It was interesting because I knew I wanted to do an ongoing series. Finding the time was something else. So
Right.
it worked out as nice as it could have worked out when the pandemic had hit. We were already kind of setting up Alterna to be more self-sufficient. So we had Diamond Distribution, but Diamond Distribution isn't, much to write home about. It's you get into like 15% of the stores. Everyone thinks like, oh, you get into every store.
Right.
Well, you could get into every store,
Yeah.
but you just tend not to, especially if you're not one of the bigger 3 or 4 publishers.
Right.
So it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, but it was grueling in terms of the pace, because if you don't keep getting yourself into that catalog, they start to look for ways to get rid of you, to push you out of that catalog. So eventually, when we had built up enough where we could sell direct, and then the pandemic hit and Diamond was closing down, I said, you know what, now's the perfect time to just step away. We'll do our own thing. And that was that. Surprisingly enough, it opened up enough time for me to start actually seriously working on something again. And I figured, why not? With crowdfunding and with selling direct, I actually could possibly do this. So I figured, let's just put it out there and see how it goes. But yeah, it was something building up for at least, I'd say, since 2018.
Ooh.
In an earnest kind of a way of really thinking like, okay, maybe one day I could do this.
Right,
And I was planting Easter eggs and putting, I had 2 covers for it came out on a Wednesday, and number 7 featured a character that I knew I eventually wanted to use. Every single issue of it came out on a Wednesday has like a really cool big giant creature or something like that. And it's a horror anthology, fantasy, sci-fi, some stories like that too. But I put this thing called the Granite Beast, and he's just this big, huge thing, and there's like a little dude at the bottom, and he's like grabbing for the guy. And no one knew at the time. I didn't say anything because I didn't know when the heck I was going to do it, so I didn't want to say that this is going to eventually be in a book. I just figured I'll put a cool like monster out there, and that'll be that. But I'll know that eventually I could say, hey, that was truly the first appearance of this character. And then later on in 2020, I believe, it came out on Wednesday number 15, and that's when I put Brug on the cover, and he's a swamp monster. Yeah. And again, I didn't announce anything. I just put another monster out there on the cover when I had the chance to do that cover again. And by the time everything worked around to actually sitting down to create a story and a series, everything was already kind of in place with the monsters. And I knew I didn't want a human being to star in it, as odd as that might sound. I wanted some kind of a monster creature, but an intelligent one, and something that was humanoid. So it kind of made sense. I've always been interested in the paranormal and supernatural things. Yeah, it's like my whole life. I was that weird little kid. You go to the library when you're in elementary school. You get like a library day or something. That's what we got anyway. And you get to pick out certain books. And I'm getting like the Bermuda Triangle and Secrets of the Pyramids and UFOs and along with like horror books and whatever else. And everyone else is getting like Berenstain Bears or whatever.
Yeah, right. You're getting the good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm getting all the Time Life books and all that
titles,
great stuff.
the black and white ones.
100%. We were getting the same stuff.
Yep.
So I've always been interested in that, and it kind of worked with being interested in comics too, because it was the same kind of thing that I loved about the unknown and the supernatural and the paranormal that I also loved about comics, and all the different crazy things that were going on, and the horror, fantasy, sci-fi elements in so many superhero comics and things like that. So it made sense to have my own character with an ongoing series finally be everything I've ever loved about everything.
Hell yeah.
And it embodied itself in King Cryptid. One day just the name came to me, King Cryptid. I wrote it down, and nothing else ever came to me again. I was just like,
no, it happens
okay,
sometimes, right?
sounds good. Yeah, I revisited a year later. I had a sheet with names that I was going to write down.
Oh, yeah.
And I never wrote any other name down. It was just that. And it's strange because with this series, and I've said it before, and it'll be like this a lot of times. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about when you're coming up with stories and characters, where sometimes you just get an idea out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And it just comes to you, and it feels like something from somewhere else is speaking to you.
It kind of hits you out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, and it was like that a lot with this series, where I've got 50 or so issues outlined already. So I'm in it for the long haul. I'm easily going to get to 100. I have to stop myself from making story ideas, because every single time I make one, it spirals off into 2 or 3 to kind of connect this other character and work him into that, and then we have to follow up and see what happens, and so you end up having to go, okay, I got too many, I got to stop.
No, I know what you're talking about.
But so I got the creator bug, and it bit me bad again. But all these different types of stories, all these kinds of characters, the visuals, all these different things in terms of, there's so many plot lines in the first 4 issues that will spiral out down the line that people are going to see 5 or 6 years from now, these various payoffs from all these different characters that maybe they're just seeing them now and they're going like, oh, that was a good story. Maybe we won't see them again. And I already have, the next 5 or 6 years of where this is going to kind of go. It's fun. And I hope that everybody has a lot of fun reading it too. But it's been really exciting working on a series like this where I can actually, that's another thing with Diamond too, where I can actually depend upon the readers to let me know, do they want more of it? Because when you're in the Diamond system, you're kind of at the mercy of Diamond and the retailer. So the readers might love it. I mean, there's been a lot of titles out there every now and then where the readers seem to really enjoy it, but it's difficult to kind of get the title for various reasons through your retailer or through Diamond, and then eventually the publisher cancels it.
Yeah.
But like this, the beauty of it is that as long as the reader wants it, I can continue to keep making it. So I'm really hoping they like those first 4 issues. I'm really excited about it, and we have a kind of a thing here where we do a different. I hate to say it's a different artist every issue, because we will be bringing back artists, but usually it's not the same artist, like on 7, 8, and 9 or whatever it is. It's not a run. It'll be like a different artist on 7, a different artist on 8, a different artist on 9, and maybe we bring back an artist that readers love that was on like issue 4 or whatever it may be. But it's a lot of fun because I get to kind of be like a general manager on a sports team. And I get to kind of say that this guy would be great with a horror story. This guy would be great with a sci-fi story. We're going to do a little bit more adventure elements here. Or this guy's great at drawing werewolves. This is a werewolf story. So it's that kind of a thing where I get to pick and choose, where sometimes, even though the consistency of having, and they're all great artists too, but even though the consistency of having a great artist on board, like for instance, in issue 9, we're going to have a story with these things called puckwudgies. And puckwudgies in Northeast cryptid Native American mythology are like these weird little mischievous creature people. Think of like really garish, kind of like sprite gnome leprechaun
brownie-ish.
So but they have kind of like a childlike ishness to them. So if you're an artist that can't really draw that kind of thing, but you're the series artist, it might really be a difficult time. you
Right,
know,
right.
or children especially too. Like I was just talking about with the puckwudgies. There's some really, really talented artists out there, but they can't draw children to save their life. You know,
Yeah,
they're these horrifying little adult people.
right.
You know,
They're hard
they
to
just
draw.
look. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you know, if you can't get an artist that could draw a kid without it looking frightening,
yeah,
and unintentionally frightening, that could be difficult to translate the story properly to the reader. So if I know that, okay, there's an artist out there that could really draw, there's a kid-centric issue number 3, where it's these 4 friends, and they're all like ages 10 to 13. And Alex Jovich does a fantastic job drawing these kids. He's got a very animated, expressive style, and it works.
sweet.
But if I have a different kind of artist who can't handle that sort of thing, it doesn't come across the same way. So I
Right,
love being
right.
able to have these different artists, and then it works out for them too, because if they're busy and they go, "Oh, Pete, you know, this year's, you know, all full for me, but maybe next year we can get together," I can then pencil in a different artist with a different issue and kind of just tweak some things around to
Right.
fit the continuity and keep the storyline going. So it's really great, and it's fun to be able to actually do that. You get creative with plotting things out.
Oh yeah, man, and also you got like 4 different flavors. Different you know, readers might like different art styles. It just benefits for everybody all around, you know. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I was thinking. Like, oh wow, this is a really cool thing he's doing. Like with the 4 first issues, different styles, maybe a little different tones, like, you know. And I think that's very creative and something that, like, I thought was really cool right off the bat.
Yeah, and it kind of works too with it being a cryptid because of the fact that there's always this kind of it's your own interpretation, you know, when
Right.
you're seeing a cryptid. Everyone describes him slightly differently than
Everybody. Yeah.
yeah, so it's
Or
it's kind of
multiple.
fun saying that, okay, this is what he looks like, you know, but let's say if you made the horns on his head like the crown of bone, if they're a little longer or a little shorter or a
Right.
little fatter or a little more, you know, kind of it's okay because it's kind of like your interpretation. So the artist can really feel like, okay, I'm going to draw it how I think this would really look.
That's dope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, so it's a lot of fun for them too, and the whole thing is an interesting creative process because I put together my scripts in a way where it's scene descriptions.
Okay.
So the
That's cool.
artists get these scene descriptions. They don't even know most of the time what the dialogue is going to be like. It's just kind of
Oh,
describing
okay.
and setting up a scene page by
Yeah.
page. And then I let the artist put it together. I don't instruct them on how many panels to use. I don't instruct them on, unless it's a very pivotal moment where the character is going to say this kind of a thing, I'll let them know. But otherwise, it's a scene description and then they put it together. And all 4 artists had a blast doing that. And some of them actually said it was the most fun they ever had working with a writer
Yeah.
because they could just be so creative with it. And then if there was anything, of course we did, like, you know, thumbnails and pencils, and just in case we had to catch something along the way before it got too out of hand. But it was very rare. I think there was only 4 or 5 edits across 4 issues with 4 different artists. So the fact that we had that kind of a thing going on where there was this synergy going on between the writing and the art and everyone coming together creatively and having a lot of fun. I really hope that translates with the issues. There's been a couple people that have read some of them, and they really have liked it. So I'm hoping that they're not just blowing smoke up my ass, and
Yeah.
that
That's
they
not gonna
actually
help nobody.
legitimately like it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I know a couple people in particular, they would absolutely tell me if they thought it was a stinker and, you know, change this, change that. You got to have those people. If you don't, if you're a creative person, make sure you get people who are going to be honest with you. You don't want
Yeah.
anybody just telling you, "Oh, it's great," you know.
Not gonna help
Yeah, it's not going to help you out.
you later on, right?
But it's been a blast, and I'm hoping that the next campaign, which is going to launch in the summer of this
Sweet,
year,
sweet.
that's going to be for issues 5 to 9. So we're going to do 5 issues for this campaign.
It's so
and
cool, man. That's like every
it's
quarter you get a comic book, basically. Right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, so they'll get it. It takes about a year or so to get everything done, and
Yeah.
then they'll get the big whatever it is that they ordered, and to get those 4 to 5 issues done every single year. Like I said, we're gonna get to a lot of issues with this series, and I've got a lot of stories to tell. So I hope everybody's on board.
Yeah. I know. I can't wait. I was also wondering too, man. I was going to ask you about your writing process, but you kind of covered a little bit of it, and I think that's cool too. How you let the artists be artists and kind of let them do their thing and give room to breathe, and like the way that you spoke about how you you know, don't write the dialogue in and whatnot. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of like what they were doing with the Marvel style, a little bit, not much, but kind of a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that, and honestly, I find that if it's a really well read book, not just a well written book, but a book that you sit there and you read it and the visual works so good with the writing, it has to be because of the fact that they're not sticking entirely just to the script. Because if what happens is you stick to the script, the writer's going to interpret it one way, the artist is going to interpret it another way, and what's going to happen is that the visual is king. The visual is going to win out at the end of the day. So if all of a sudden the visual change occurs and you don't match that with the writing, you have a very disjointed kind of thing. If the emotion doesn't match up with what's occurring, if the writing, if the line doesn't seem to hit the way the art is hitting, you know, all of a sudden now you risk losing that perfect balance of everything seemingly being created at the same time when they're not created at the same time. So yeah, so it's one thing to say, okay, here's what the scene's going to be like, here's the characters involved, here's what we're going for, here's, you know, the description, and then the artist goes, okay, let me interpret that visually, and then they put it down. If you go back in there and you're a writer and you say everything has to be exactly the way that I wanted it to be, and the dialogue has to be this way and the captioning has to be this way, you might find yourself wrestling with the page instead of saying, you know, let me adapt, let me roll with the punches here. The artist gave me something great. Maybe I don't need to do so much dialogue that I would have done before. Or maybe the artist gave me a lot of room here to work with. And maybe there's a scene that the reader's going to fly through this thing. Let me slow it down a little bit with some dialogue or some captions, some exposition, something, some kind of insight. We've got thought bubbles in here. People are going to be like, whoa, thought bubbles.
I love thought bubbles.
I love them too. I miss them so much. Yeah.
With the
you
cloud.
Know, yeah, it's so sickening to me how much comics like we've gotten so far away from comics are a book. They're a comic book. You know, so you're supposed to read them, take some time with them, take everything in, learn something about the characters, the plot. You know, there's things developing. There's so many comics nowadays where it's like 2 or 3 balloons on a page.
Yeah.
You know, and like you read the whole thing, you're done in 5 minutes, and you're like, all right, I really didn't learn a whole hell of a lot here. You know, there wasn't a lot emotionally to get invested in, because it's the equivalent of saying hi and bye to somebody at a grocery store. You know, there really wasn't much of a relationship there.
You know,
you spend some
hang
time
out a little bit. You know. Don't be scared.
You're on this journey with these characters, you know, and if no one's going to say anything, if nothing's going to happen, if you're not really going to get to know anybody, then emotionally you're just not going to be there.
You won't be
so
yeah, dude.
there's so much. I loved there's so much great poetic type writing from 70s, 80s, even some 90s comics too, where they were just really crafting the scene and giving you insight into the characters, what they were feeling. You know, maybe they're saying one thing, but they're thinking another. You know, I love that about thought bubbles. Yep. You know, you get some insight into the fact that, this character doesn't really trust this other character, but they're playing it like this.
Right.
You know, so you can have all these different things, and every single aspect of that gives information to the reader. And you start to develop not just the characters, but you develop a sense of communication and a rapport with the reader. So then all of a sudden you can actually say and reference certain things that happen in other issues, and the reader's been there the whole time and they get it. They know what you're referencing. They know what these characters are going through. And then when certain things happen to these characters, it lands even harder than it would have before. You know, so it's all this. Yeah, all this great stuff about storytelling that I feel like we've gotten so far away from, because we think that like less is always more, and the whole like show don't tell has morphed into some kind of
impatience.
Awful. Yeah, it's morphed into this like awful instant, gratification thing. And it's turned into this weird sort of story where if it's not visually there, the writer feels like they don't have any obligation to provide any extra information to the reader, which I
Right.
think is like, how did we get to that point? There's so much that you could do with these different things. The perfect marriage of text and visual is what makes these comics great. I think we really see we got away from that in comics when it was an embarrassing thing to have text on the cover. It was like,
Right.
oh no. Now we have comics out there that don't even put the logo on the, don't do that. Don't put the
Yeah.
logo on the cover. You don't want anybody to know it's a comic book.
And it's like, dude, it's a comic. It's like, it's a cartoon, like, too. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's fun, but we can do a lot with that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
that's
comics
fun.
have
Like,
always, like for the past like
fun.
30 to 40 years, it feels like comics have been so embarrassed about
yeah.
being comics.
Yeah.
Like
it's
we want to be
that
everything
style,
else
you know,
but a
like,
comic
don't-
book.
Like, come on, dude. Don't be like that. Like,
Yeah.
I was wondering, man, what's your favorite metal band?
Oh, my favorite metal band. Oh man, I gotta go with the classics. I gotta go Iron Maiden.
Oh, yeah, man. That's awesome. dude.
Yeah, yeah.
They're pretty dope. I like how
Oh,
they
yeah.
started out and kind of had like the punk sound in the beginning. Then they got Dickinson and came in, and then
Yeah,
everything changed, and they brought in the two dual harmonies. I love their guitars.
Oh,
Yeah, man,
it's
that's cool.
incredible. Yeah, I mean, I'm with music. It's like that with comics too. For me, it's so funny that I like so much of the foundational type stuff.
Me too.
And then I like some of the next wave of stuff. And then by the time it gets to like the third or the fourth wave, I'm checked out. I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
'Cause it's gone. The spark is
Yeah,
gone.
it keeps
It's-
on.
yeah.
Yeah, because I find that they don't really inject so much of themselves anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Everything it's like the copy of a copy of a copy. So by the time you get to the fourth copy, it turns into like, yeah, whatever.
And it's like they have so much angst. Sometimes they'll start out sometimes younger, but sometimes no. But they have something they have to say like from the get, and that's very potent and it's very important. And they have to do that musically, bands, And I usually find that like the first few albums, you're gonna get the best stuff. And
yeah.
I feel like kind of like deteriorates a little bit after that. And they kind of lose their edge in some ways, Totally
Yeah,
agree with you.
yeah. I think that happens with a lot of creative people in general. I think that turns into that angst that me against the world, or us against the world if it's a band or whoever else. When you hit a lot of success, I think sometimes that turns into, well, I guess things ain't so bad.
I got the bills covered. I also think too with like music and sometimes ideas and concepts. I think sometimes like the first thing that you do, like it's good. It's probably the best, like most of the time. And then you start getting in there and you're rendering it and you're like a piece of clay and you're like carving away. And sometimes it's just that first hook or that first character you came up with or the first story idea, And then you're going around and messing with the song. You're re-engineering it. You're trying to mess with it. And sometimes it is what it is. It doesn't got to be technical. Sometimes the song or I don't know. Sometimes things
It gets
reworked,
tortured. It's like
first
with
thing,
it's like with a drawing too. I see people like they do these beautiful sketches. There's so much energy in it. There's so much
Yeah.
movement,
The
and then they
dun.
render it to death.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
it's like this statue on paper.
Right.
It's devoid of life. It's just frozen now, and it's like, oh man, all that energy. So you gotta capture that energy and
hard, right?
find that. Yeah, it's difficult to focusing on speed more and more and going on instinct. I
Right.
find really helps with that. But to go back on the topic of music, I know they're not metal, but I really love AC/DC, and I love the fact that
I think they are.
I mean, some people say, but I mean, I don't really view them as metal. They kind of got more like a hard rock,
Classic hard rock. Yeah.
yeah, kind of a hard rock thing going on.
But they're heavy.
But,
Though. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a broad spectrum for metal though. Like I really like for me, it's really blanket, it's really gray. You know what I mean? 'Cause
I think if they were on a metal tour, I don't think anybody would really complain.
No.
But
no.
it's one of those things where that band, I mean, man, oh man, talk about between the change up with the
singers.
front men, and then to just be kicking ass, and they're in their 70s still. It's like,
Dude. Yeah.
Holy
and I was
smoke.
listening at work. They're playing Ozzy's Boneyard and walking around in the warehouse and they're playing the original singer and and the second singer, which I like the second guy more, but I forget his name at the moment. But
Yeah, Brian Johnson, right?
Brian Johnson, dude.
Yeah, I love both Bon Scott and Brian Johnson, but yeah,
Dude, both of them are original sounding. Like they don't.
Oh,
Neither of them
yeah.
sound like they're from any other band. I was just thinking that like this week. It's funny you say that. I'm like, dude, both these guys sound totally original. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they both got that essential swagger, you know,
definitely.
that presence to command the words that they're singing. You believe it, you know, and you believe it because they live it. You know, you get a lot of these guys, these kind of like posery type guys in music, in comics, whatever it may be. Even in acting, I find that there's a lot of that. A lot of my favorite actors, right? You look them up. And you're like, holy shit, the tragedy they lived through.
Right.
You know, and you're like, no wonder why they could call upon all these emotions. They've lived life, you know, but then
pull them out.
Yeah, nowadays it's like if there's like a superstar actor or whatever, you know, if you look them up and you see like what their life has been like, you're like, oh, you know, you had it pretty good.
Yeah, right.
You're like, no wonder why you can't really dig deep and get those performances out of them, because like they're just like an actor celebrity. As opposed to like these people who it was all about the art of it, you know. There's so many actors and interviews from back in the day that are talking about like, you know, the human condition and the getting that across and really, you know, getting in there and researching their part and making sure they understand the ins and outs of this individual and then, you know, bring layers to them and whatever else. But now it's like they just go on there and they're like, oh, who needs any of that shit? They're just seeing me because I'm a celebrity. You know, and it feels that way, and a lot of the performances feel that way.
It comes off just plastic, dude, and like they don't do the recon, they don't do the homework. I really like a lot of character actors. Like forever, like Barry Oldman was always my favorite, you know. And then I look at the, you know, like Jackie Earle Haley's and, you know, just little the character actors, you know. And even as a kid, I was like, it'd be fun to be an actor one day, yeah. But I always wanted to be the character actor. Like I wanted to be the bad guy in the background, but has the cool lines, or, you know, the Buscemi's. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's a lot of actors that are, you know, the side actors, and I just feel that the character actors, a lot of actors now, they just don't put that much into it, and they're not really willing to like do anything for the art of that performance. Like they're not.
Yeah, you know I mean, you can even see explicitly what I'm talking about if you just even compare the evolution or the devolution of superhero films. Yeah. You know, when you're looking at the posters, just look at the posters. Don't even watch the movie. You look at the poster of the original Superman film with Christopher Reeve. It's just symbol? The S. It's the symbol. It's like bursting through the clouds, right? It's Batman with Tim Burton, Michael Keaton. Just the symbol. It's the Batman logo. Even Batman Returns. It's the Penguin, Catwoman, Batman. You know, they're in costume, all of them.
Yeah.
Now and then you go into like Sam Raimi Spider-Man. He's Spider-Man. He's in his costume and everything.
Yeah.
Now you look at like the Disney MCU. Everyone's got their friggin' masks off.
Yeah. And it's
like they're all just standing there as like the actor. It's like, and I'm like, that's rule number one of superhero-ness.
Not to be mean or nothing, but I kind of want to put your mask back on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's why I like Dredd so much, you know? It's just like, I don't know. Like I paid to see the mask, bro. Like, come on. I know you got to, you know. Like,
it's not about bringing the character to life. That's a fundamental part of that character is the mask.
Right.
Is the identity, you know? And the fact that, like, and it's happened in a very short time, maybe 10 years or so. But it's because all of a sudden it's become about the celebrity. It's about the presence. It's about, you know, this is who is selling it now. Because I don't know if actors were complaining that they were like, oh, you know, they're coming there for the character. They're not coming there for me. I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if it's a studio choice only. I mean, when it comes to posters, it's absolutely a studio choice.
Right.
But it to me, right off the bat, takes me right out of it. I'm like, I don't want to see it. Because it just looks like a, you know, this is just go to pay to see. Yeah, you know.
Not the comic book characters movie.
Yeah. It's not about bringing the character to life, being true to the character right from the start, right from the poster of it, right from the promotional aspect. We're going to be like, yeah, this is, you know, this is the actor, okay? This is Tom Holland as Spider-Man. We're not seeing Spider-Man here. We're seeing Tom Holland as Spider-Man. And there's, to me, it sucks me right out of it. Like, I always respect that choice with George Lucas when he was like, no, we're not going to have any credits in the opening. It's just going to go right into Star Wars. And he paid a big fine for that, and got kicked out of the Directors Guild for it at the time.
Right.
but it's one of those things of like that just immersed you right in the world. You know, if you just
Yeah.
saw everyone with the credits on there, and then it would take away something from it. And maybe and you can't do that necessarily with every single movie, but I think specifically I 100% understand the artistic choice to go with that. But it just, again, it
Yeah,
feels
totally.
like there's so many things like that now. It's like a narcissism or something,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it's not about the character and the story. It's not about entertaining or inspiring the audience or whatever it may be.
No.
It's about us. They're here for us, and they're gonna know it. And it's just, oh man,
And
like
merch,
what a
and merch,
right off the bat, what a bad
trying to
taste.
sell merch that no one will buy.
Oh, that's sad too, man. Seeing going to the stores when I was a kid, I don't think I ever even saw any toys go on clearance.
Nah, like if I was lucky, if I
They
got
were
the toy I
gone.
wanted, I was always looking at the back of the the box.
Yeah,
trying to get
yeah.
that toy, and then go in there, you'd never find it. If you're lucky, you'd get it, but they would sell out. You know what I mean? Like there was always a
yeah.
problem. Like there was always a Ninja Turtle I could never get because it was
Yeah.
always that problem.
Now it's, oh my lord. Now
I
it's,
I,
it's
I
like the
got
stars of the movies. The toys are on clearance.
I got King Cryptid right here on my computer. I was wondering, it's cool if we share the campaign a little bit and maybe talk.
Oh
about
yeah. Go for it.
Sweet.
Sure. That's what I'm here to talk about, right?
No. I like to talk about a bunch of stuff. One moment.
Yeah, that's what I love about this. At Alterna, usually we have the creator credits on the cover. But
Nice.
on this, even though we've got the creator credits on the inside of the book, I really wanted to go back to all the comics I enjoyed and loved, where you just, again, you didn't see the creator credits on the cover, you just saw the characters and the story. And so I let everybody know, I was like, there's no creator credits on the cover. I know that might sound a little strange in today's, nowadays kind of thing. But I was like, I really wanted people to just see the characters, see the cover, and see the story, and just dive right in. And even though our names are on the inside of the book, it's not a big production about it. I wanted
cool.
it to just be like, this is kind of, and this is how it's essentially being pitched, is like King Cryptid's a real thing. He's a real living, breathing thing that's out there, and he's finally returning. He's been away for about 30 or so years, and something is going on in the world, but that basically it's a call to action for him. There's a lot of weirdness occurring. There's a shift in the earth, the energies of the earth. A lot of evil people have been taking advantage, essentially, of his time away. And nature and science are kind of coming together and combining to become this bastardized thing. There's a evil entity out there, society, corporation, whatever they may be, that are merging black magic with black budget science. So they're doing two of the worst things that you could put together, and they have been doing this for a couple of years now, and it's starting to get back through the grapevine to King Cryptid, who's kind of been away in his own little world in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, just kind of protecting his own little region and thinking, I can only really do so much. This guy's been around for 5 centuries, so he's kind of seen a lot of stuff. But he knows he's still just one individual, and he really can't do a whole hell of a lot, because human beings also aren't going to necessarily be so willing to get help from a big 7-foot tall giant thing guy. Right? So he just kind of does his own thing in the shadows. He's fine with it. He doesn't hate people, but he also isn't necessarily too fond and too crazy about people because of that 5 centuries of time. He's seen a lot of bad people do a lot of bad things, but he's also seen a lot of good people do a lot of good things. So there's a balance there that he's trying to strike, but again, something's going on that's kind of forced his hand to become more of a presence again. So each story is kind of almost like we're learning not only about what he's doing in a linear fashion, but in terms of even there's going to be flashback stories as well, where we see King Cryptid maybe in the 1700s or the 1800s. Different King Cryptid settings in terms of where he is, where he's been. He's kind of a myth in a way. His name, even King Cryptid, is not really his name. It's the name that people gave him. So
That's dope.
even approaching it as like Bigfoot.
Right,
So Bigfoot, right? He wouldn't name himself Bigfoot. Bigfoot's probably like, Ralph or something.
Yeah,
you know?
he's like, my name's blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm gonna call you
exactly.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, but people are like Bigfoot,
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with King Cryptid. King Cryptid's real name is Crowan, Krowan, and it's honestly the only thing
Whoa.
he can remember from being a human being.
I didn't know that was his name.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
500 something years ago, he was betrayed by his people
Metal.
and transformed and turned into this thing. So
okay.
he's betrayed and cursed 500 years ago. We eventually sort of find out what has occurred, but again, they're not going to find out for a couple of years. But he can barely remember any of his time as a person. But he remembers his name, and he's held on to his name. His name means something to him. It means that he was something before he was this, and he doesn't know. Yeah, he doesn't know what the hell is going to happen. He doesn't even know if he could necessarily truly die. He doesn't know if he's ever going to not be this thing anymore. But he knows at one point in time he was a human. And he knows it because of his name. He remembers his name. It's important to him. But so that adds a layer to his character in terms of where he's been, what he's been through, and kind of where he's going, too. So with King Cryptid's whole past kind of spelled out for you guys in a way, but you don't really know exactly the details because he doesn't really know exactly the details.
That's
so
interesting, man.
Yeah, so it's kind of like we only really know as much as what he knows.
Right,
And we'll see certain flashback issues, and there's going to be a certain thing that occurs a couple of years from now in around issue 15 or so, where we kind of see a little bit of that origin, more or less.
Suppressed memories are starting to.
Yeah, but like, yeah, that's the thing is that so part of King Cryptid's curse and what had happened, the first 100 years or so of it, his curse, he was supposed to be this mindless, killing creature.
Okay.
And there were a lot of stories and myths built around him. He was kind of entrenched in American Indian mythology as this thing of, you beware of this creature. I don't want to say where he's from because it'll give it away, a lot of it. But beware of the beast of blah blah blah. So because of that, what had occurred was over about 100 years or so, he eventually meets this shaman called Black Moon, and Black Moon recognizes who this is from the stories that he's heard of throughout the generations, and he's like, this must be him, this must be this guy. And everyone thinks he's this creature, but this guy knows from his people talking about this story that he was a human being. So he thinks that he could reach him, he could help him out. So he risks his life to help him out, and he gives him this thing. He eventually gets to him, and he gives him this thing, the moonstone that's in the centerpiece there of his crown, and it brings back his humanity again. But by bringing back his humanity with that moonstone, and there's a big story behind that as well. I don't want to spoil the entire thing. I talk about this character a lot, but people are always surprised. I give so much away, and I'm giving away like the tip of the iceberg. You guys have no idea the amount of stuff that everyone's like, Pete, you're giving it all away. I'm like, I'm not even close to all of it away. This is kind of just like fun stuff for me to talk about. There's so much more to it that everyone's gonna be like, oh wow, yeah, you were right. I guess you weren't giving it all away. But so he gives him this moonstone, and what basically occurs is his inner humanity now comes back out. But there's a trade-off. So with the moonstone, he has to get it recharged every night with the light of the moon. But when it's the night of a new moon, and when there's no moonlight, his power starts to dissipate. And the more his power dissipates, the more that other side comes back out again. He reverts. So the horrible part for King Cryptid, the biggest part of his curse that he was supposed to live out forever, was that he was supposed to be this mindless killing creature, and still on the inside have his humanity, be completely aware of doing the horrible, awful things. I mean, he would kill and dismember animal, person, whatever, it didn't matter, eat them, all that kind of crazy, horrible stuff. Yeah, and for about 100 years he did this.
Dude.
And he knew what he was doing.
thousands of stories right there alone.
Yeah, but he's powerless to stop it.
That's crazy.
So when he meets Black Moon and Black Moon finally restores his humanity, that's just kind of a major. Not only was it a burden that was lifted, it's a burden that's also now on him. So he feels like he has to make amends. He has to repent in a way. And again, he doesn't know if he's going to live how much longer, whatever it is. He's not aware at the time he's going to live for 400 more years.
Right.
You know, but so he's now trying to do these things where he's paying back all the bad he did for those 100 years that he really knows, even though he wasn't able to stop it. He's completely powerless to stop what he was doing. So doing all of that, doing this whole the journey that he's on, he not only, of course, meets various friends and foes and whatnot, but it's kind of the book kind of almost has like a historical fiction element to it,
Right.
Because there's a couple different things that I'm going to write about in some of the flashback issues that are like, oh, so that's kind of interesting. Like King Cryptid was there at the scene of like this event or this battle,
happened.
or he helped, in the American Revolution, war. It's like all these
awesome,
different things. Yeah, so it's fun to play
really
around
cool.
with those stories, but with the supernatural elements of it too. There's all kinds of other cool stuff that we do that I don't want to give away.
Does he go? Is he global, or is he just?
He can. I'm going to get to that eventually.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about and touch upon things like portals.
Right.
Certain time travel elements, things like that.
You know what? Some Bigfoots and some portals. I'm sure you do
Yep.
too.
Yeah. So it's like there's so much to touch upon here. It's a whole huge world to explore, and it's just a
You
fun
can even tell all these
character.
stories in your lifetime. I don't think, Pete. Like,
Oh,
they're
no, I don't-
It's so rich. Like I just said, there's 100 years where he was a feral, like.
Yeah.
Beast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's
And
a lot
all
you can
these
do with that. You can do
varying
a whole
different
primal,
people.
like, thing with that,
Yeah.
The TV show Primal. Like,
he's-
there's so. Oh my god. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah, exactly. See, you know what I'm talking about now, where all of a sudden you're creating all these other stories because you just heard about like 5 stories. Yeah.
Like,
It
oh,
gets,
it's so
yeah,
cool,
it
dude.
gets the imagination going.
It's just everlasting.
But yeah, so more specifically, the first issue,
Love it.
he's up against this thing called the Behemoth. And the Behemoth is this cryptid experiment that was created from the DNA of the Mothman.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it was merged with a human being and created with the DNA of the Mothman. And
Love
the
that.
Behemoth was created. Now, Behemoth
there.
escapes and King Cryptid goes up against him. But there's something else with this issue. So there's a cryptid bounty hunter that's tracking down the Behemoth. He's basically
man.
sent out to retrieve this thing that's escaped. He was supposed to be en route to northern New Hampshire, and he escaped. He makes the van turn over, he escapes out the back, and he takes off. So this guy, Victor Lugo, is hired. He's this big game hunter that's now turned into a cryptid hunter. So he's hired by this organization to track down the Behemoth. Doesn't realize that King Cryptid is also around too. Hasn't seen King, like I said, this is the first time King Cryptid is being seen for about 30 years. So he's only heard stories of him. He thought he was dead. No one's seen him. No one's reported about him. There's been no sightings. He's been good at laying low. But now all of a sudden he finds that at the scene where Behemoth took off, he sees 2 sets of tracks. And one of them matches up with what they have on file for King Cryptid, and he's like, "Is this guy seriously still alive?"
What the?
So now he's got to get both of these guys, and there's a couple of events here that come about where Behemoth, King Cryptid, Victor Lugo, they kind of have a squaring off, and it really sets a path for Victor Lugo's character.
He sounds like a big dog, like in the art in his rogues gallery.
Yeah. He's gonna, it goes from being like a job to becoming personal. So we're gonna see Victor Lugo become a big second tier baddie, because his bosses are like the top tier, and they're kind of like that shadowy organization sort of thing.
Damn,
but they hire people out, and they have a nice front facing kind of everything is great. We're the New England Cryptid Research Organization.
Right?
We're just looking up various cryptid sightings and reportings of paranormal activity, and it's just a fun time. It's it's one of those things. But it's a secret, shadowy government organization full of black budget insanity. And then it gets even crazier than that years to come. But again, I don't want to spoil it. So
No, that's awesome, man. Like even with the Mothman, like what you talked about, how they took his DNA and they made this, like that even checks out because of the whole like Point Pleasant, I believe is what it's called.
yeah.
That was a theoretical thing of what that happened, and it checks
Yeah.
out like that could
And
theoretically happen.
And it's one of those things of like, well, where's he been? Oh, it's like,
Right.
well, where's he been? He's been with these guys. They got him.
Yep.
And they've been doing what with him? I don't know. We'll find out in the series. But Behemoth is one of the things that was a success. It was successfully created, combining and merging this DNA into a human subject. And we'll find a lot more instances of this organization doing that kind of a thing. In issue 2, it's a real fun black and white issue. Issue 1's got great art by Christian Rossi. He does everything on that.
Christian Rossi, man.
Yeah, issue 2, we got Nick Hunter on board. It's a black and white issue.
Love the black and whites.
King Cryptid goes up against the Granite Beast. And what it is on the night of a new moon, everything I explained before about the new moon and his power set and how that works. On a full moon, King Cryptid's powers are at their max. On a new moon, his powers he's just a really strong 7-foot tall dude.
Right.
So, he still can pack a wallop against a human.
So he's even bigger on the full moon, right?
But on the full moon, he's very powerful. He's lift up to 10 tons. The dude could fly at like 200 miles an hour.
It was full last night, right?
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have Pete on tomorrow. And I was looking at the moon. Like it looked like I was driving to the beer store, right? And I just did a delivery. I do a side hustle. I deliver stuff at night.
Nice.
I was driving there, and I seen the moon, this big fat yellow moon with these clouds in front of it, and I was like, did someone Photoshop that into the sky? And it made me think of King Cryptid, and I don't know. I just thought that was pretty cool, man.
That's the fun about this character, is that it when everyone reads these stories too, and I think the more of them that come out, you kind of have that feeling that I think we all had when we were imagining like Spider-Man swinging through New York City, or the X-Men Quinjet flying overhead, that kind of thing. That it feels like these things exist in the world. But with King Cryptid issue 2, he goes up against the Granite Beast on the night of a new moon. Now the Granite Beast is this big 20-foot tall.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. He weighs like 8 tons. He's a solid granite, a living granite beast. And he is saying to King Cryptid that the cave layer that King Cryptid has made his home is actually the Granite Beast's ancestral home, and he's come back to reclaim it. And he wants King Cryptid gone. Now, the thing, though, is that King Cryptid has to get back to his home so he can actually rest in the waters there. There's these cosmic waters that will recharge him during the night of a new moon. Yeah. And if he doesn't get to it, he reverts back to that crazy, feral, ravenous, killing machine until the moon's light charges him up again. So he'll look at like 2 or 3 days of doing some serious damage, and he doesn't want to do that again. He hated those 100 years. That's like one of his biggest fears, is reverting back to that. So it means a lot to him to get back there, but he can't necessarily say to this very, very, very strong creature, hey, look, I'm really weak right now, and you could probably just crush me like a bug.
Oh, hell no.
But can I just get into that for like an hour or so and recharge, and then, hey, we'll talk about this in the morning? So he's trying to really outplay and outsmart the Granite Beast without giving away that he's severely depowered. And so it's that whole issue where we learn more about the Granite Beast, we learn more about King Cryptid. We see King Cryptid's waterfall layer for the first time, and the reader also will learn more about the power set that King Cryptid has, and the stakes involved as well for this character, who may seemingly look like he's very powerful and he's immortal and no one knows if he could die, and hey, so what are the stakes for him? There can't really be too many, but there's a lot of psychological and physical stakes for this character. In issue 3, it's more of an all ages issue in terms of it's the most kid friendly issue, even though it's got a lot in there that I think if adults read it, they'll go, oh, this feels like a comic straight out of the 80s.
I'm going to read them all, dude. I'm going to show my kids all. Like, I got a 10-year-old and I got a 3-year-old, but they're going to love
fantastic.
them. I know they're going to love them. You know what I mean? Like they're going to love all of them, dude. Like, yeah, like I know because you're saying they're all ages, but
yeah, there's no cursing in it. There's
Yeah.
nothing too much in terms of like overt graphic violence or whatever, even if
Right,
it's
right.
intense sometime.
yeah,
It's like the stuff that we grew up with in the 80s, that
Exactly.
everything was, you know.
yeah. I mean,
You could
I'd
have
rather have them
action
reading this
and
too, also, like because my kids love this, than
oh, good, yeah,
watching other stuff. Like they're really into the cryptids, Sometimes
nice.
we'll watch stuff on TV, like they'll do like little YouTube things, but I'll be there, making sure there's nothing gross or too scary, but inappropriate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the kids, they love the cryptid stuff, and
Oh, that's so cool.
This is going to be even, and I think with what you have right here, I obviously I'm a backer, dude. I backed on day one, and
thank you, man.
Oh, for she's, dude. And basically, like with this campaign, it was fully like you're always doing new things with the campaign every month, and you're releasing new things on the full moon. So
Yeah, we were active. It was like the full moon and new moon specials.
Yeah,
and
dude.
yeah, it was a lot
was
of
so
fun.
cool, dude. Like no one's ever done anything like that. It was really like immersive. It was an immersive campaign once I backed, and just seeing all the things that you unlocked and whatnot, man. And I think it was really cool how you did that. I hadn't seen anybody do anything like that. And
oh, thank you. It works with the character,
Yeah, totally.
But so with the third issue, this is a flashback issue to 1984. This takes place in Lincoln, New Hampshire, and it's September 19th. So it's the 23rd anniversary of the first ever recorded, anyway, UFO abduction, Betty and Barney Hill abduction. And it happened in the same spot, Lincoln, New Hampshire. So these four friends, Eric, Linda, and Ernie, and Eric's younger brother, Jeff, they go out into the woods that night. They're all into the paranormal. They've all kind of lied to their parents about where they're going to be. They're at each other's houses, but they're supposed to be doing something else. Instead, they're going to go out into the woods for a couple hours. And what could go wrong? So they're hunting down for anything paranormal, but they're especially on the lookout for King Cryptid, who's been reported to be in the area around these kinds of events, these more paranormal type of anniversarial events. But they, if they see an alien, if they see a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, whatever it may be, hey, that's cool too.
Right.
So what happens is that this isn't just an issue where it's four kids, it's an 84, and then that's it. We're actually going to be seeing a lot of these four characters in the future. They become very key characters for multiple purposes throughout the rest of the series. That's so awesome. Some people might be looking at this going like, oh, it's just like a fun issue, and it just kind of highlights four friends and this moment in their life. But we're going to see a lot happen with them. We're going to see them back, I believe, on issue 8. We're going to be back, and it's going to be Halloween night 1987. And that's a very key moment in their lives as well. But we're going to see them as adults. If anything, the issue actually starts off with two of them, or at least one of them, as an adult. You see him, and he's kind of looking through the files, and he sees a Polaroid of a King Cryptid footprint showing up all of a sudden again. And it reminds him, like, oh my God, that night. So he starts kind of remembering the story, and this is kind of what we're seeing, is his memories in a way. So this issue is a lot of fun. I mean, these kids, they all kind of have that. Jeff's a smart ass. He's 10 years old, but he thinks he's older than he is. He don't believe in any of this stuff. He thinks his friends are whacked out of their mind. But he's along for the ride to, kind of laugh in their faces when they don't see anything. And then you get Jeff's brother, Eric, who, he wants to be more serious than he is, but he's mostly in this to kind of sort of impress the girl that's in the group, which is Linda. Linda's really in it. She loves this stuff. She's very serious about this. She's kind of, if these were the Ghostbusters, she's the Egon of the group. Okay. And then you get Ernie, who he's along. He loves this stuff. He thinks it's a lot of fun. He doesn't really know if he believes in it or not, but he's down for this, and he likes his friends, and he goes along for the ride. But what happens here is that something happens with the group that literally changes the rest of their lives, because it sets a bunch of events. And
interesting, man.
Yeah, it really it really does a lot to these kids, and it's crazy thinking about certain things when you hang out with your friends or whatever when you were a kid, and you lose touch with people,
It
it's
just
crazy
happens no
to
matter
think,
what.
yeah, that like something can happen,
Good or
and
bad, it just
maybe you don't see these
grow apart.
guys for 20, 30 years, and
Yep.
you're like, holy crap! On that night when this happened,
Oh
this did a chain of events that we had no idea that was going to happen 30, 40 years later. You know,
man.
and that's essentially what this issue sets up. So it's
Pretty
it's one of those things.
A
It
wolf in
seems
sheep's clothing.
it seems like a nice fun, there's kids there, and it's 1984, so hey, it's the 80s and everything must be referential or whatever.
Right.
But
I was 10 years old in 84.
Wow. Yeah, this issue it sets up a lot of different things to come for them and for King Cryptid as well. So and then issue 4 we've got and Alex Jovich does the artwork on issue 3.
Beautiful, man.
Issue 4 we got Kier Covington on the pencils and the inks, and we got Christian Rossi on the colors. This
nice.
one it's a straight up monster of the issue kind of issue. So we got Brug the Swamp Monster. This takes place in Hockomock Swamp, which is a real place. It's a real swamp in Bridgewater, Massachusetts.
You do that too. You do a lot of like
Yeah.
referential like dates of times of things that happen. You pull like when you're doing your cryptid storytelling in King Cryptid, because I've watched you on live streams and heard what you speak. You pull things from history, so it's like the date and historically accurate. So when people read this, you're getting the real deal Holyfield. Like people like like that's so freaking awesome.
I want to make that immersive kind of thing, like
almost stuff about this like people do not know about like this campaign and what you're doing with it, man. Like I could it's beautiful.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Dude.
But yeah, I hope people look at that and go, Hockomock Swamp. What kind of stupid name did Pete come up with for this swamp? And I hope they look it up, and I hope they go, oh crap, it's real, and the deep history of this swamp.
Look a little more.
It means place where spirits dwell. It's Wampanoag for that, and Wampanoag. These are the people of the dawn. It's an Algonquin sect. It's a tribe in Massachusetts in the North New England area, and so Hockomock Swamp here is there's throughout history there's been a lot of weird stuff. There's been cryptid sightings. There's been UFO sightings. There's just been the puckwudgies I speak of. There's been sightings of those. These weird little mischievous things where something taps you, something hits you, something threw a rock at you. There's sounds here and there. Like there's all kinds of stories about this area. So this swamp in particular is the home of Brug. Now, what is Brug? We'll find out in issue 4. But Brug essentially comes into play because of the fact that there is a cryptozoologist team down there doing research and investigating into child disappearances that have been occurring at this swamp. And all evidence points to the fact that it's a cryptid of some kind. So they're going down there. In this world, cryptids they're way more accepted, I guess you could say, than they are in our world.
This is a parallel. Like
this is like
reality. This is New Hampshire, right, or East Coast?
Yeah, this is So this is largely taking place in the New England area.
Here. It's not in this universe.
Yeah. It's like if this universe was a universe where we did eventually find like the skeleton of a Sasquatch, and there was this irrefutable evidence that you could not say any longer that there was not this thing that exists. Or even a Sasquatch nest area or something. We found them. They've been well documented. They're a thing now. Just like the way that there were various animals that I don't think many people know about that, like the Highland gorilla. That was supposed to be just like a myth, just a cryptid, essentially.
Years ago, right?
And that was like
covered it, right?
Yeah.
Last 100 years ago, it was a myth. Gorillas up in the mountains.
And Lord knows how many sea creatures, goodness, that we weren't able to discover because we couldn't just get to where they were.
It's not that far fetched, like people, like the government could come on and say like there's UFOs, and people really just be like, okay, all right, back to work, back to my phone. Like you could literally say that King Cryptid exists or a Sasquatch exists right now, and people would freak out for like 12 hours, bro. And then after that, they would kind of go back to their phones. Like, it's plausible, like legit. Like I feel that in my gut, that's what would happen.
Yeah, is that the next day you still got bills to pay, you still got to go to work, you still got to eat, so you still got to
Very
figure out
believable.
life.
That's
And
what we're
meanwhile, you're sitting there the whole time. You got this, the aliens are real. It's like that kind of thing. And it feels like with I don't know if you're keeping up with a lot of the disclosure stuff that's been going on in the past couple of years. But it feels like they're slowly building up into some kind of an event in terms of whether it's a false flag event or a psyop or whatever it may be. But
Yeah,
they're definitely trying to get people more comfortable and familiar with the idea that these things are here, they've
very
existed, it's
much
been a
so.
cover up for a while, and maybe it's time that we stop
Maybe some
covering it up.
giants out there. I don't know.
Right? There's all kinds of things. So, anyways, in King Cryptid, we touch upon a lot of this stuff. So, if you're a paranormal junkie, if you're someone
Yeah.
who's into conspiracy theories, if you're someone that's all about like this disclosure stuff that's been occurring, not just with extraterrestrials, but with all kinds of other things too, King Cryptid's right up your alley. You're
Oh
gonna be
yeah.
like, oh man, Pete's really paying attention to a lot of the stuff that's going on. But anyway, so Brugge, these cryptozoologists are there, and what happens is that one of their team ends up going missing, and then King Cryptid kind of hears the psychic signal because he had a relationship somewhat, and I don't mean a romantic relationship. I mean like
Right.
they shared a traumatic experience together and are forever
Right.
psychically linked. And King Cryptid having this psychic awareness, he hears this person, this thing, this creature cry out for help. And so he takes off from New Hampshire and he flies down about 150 or so miles down to Hockomock
Sick.
Swamp. And when he gets there, he sees this team panicking and they're looking around for who they're missing. So he kind of keeps a close eye on them. He doesn't know what to make of them yet. But Brugge kind of pushes his hand a bit and puts him in a situation where he goes, if I don't help out, these guys are done. So he kind of reveals himself to the team at that point, saves their lives, and fights off with Brugge. But what really happens, and what I really hope people love about this issue, is the second half of it. Not just the fight with Brugge, but there
Right.
are some really cool things that occur where, especially on the last 2 pages, where I hope the readers are like, "Oh man, Pete just put out issues 5 to 9 tomorrow."
Right.
Hopefully that's what happens, and hopefully by the time you get them, the campaign at least for issues 5 to 9 will be up shortly. But the issues might take a little longer than that. But I hope that excitement is there. I hope people are like, "Oh man,
Like
there's
for
like
me,
more to
dude, like I'm
come."
gonna be real with you. Like I don't want to read all these at once. I like want to like parcel them out like a
I hear
couple
you.
weeks
Yeah,
early,
yeah,
'cause they look so freaking dope, dude. And I'm gonna, yeah, dude. Like I don't, but it's cool too that like you're putting 4 issues out, 4 self-contained stories, and it's like 4 issues a quarter, every year. That's so
yeah,
cool, and it's a lot, that
yeah.
is a lot, dude. And
And I've said it before too. I'm not. If someone's trade waiting, they're going to be waiting for 10 years. I'm not putting one out for 10 years. And what I'm going to do when I put the trade out, because of the fact that it's an ongoing episodic series,
yeah,
it doesn't make an.
it's a trade. It's not a comic. Like for me, like with my kids, I'm gonna show them this is a comic book. Like you're gonna get that feel like I had. I want them to feel that comic book you feel. And you're also
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about like in the updates about writing the King Cryptid, and you're gonna tell
Yep.
it from his perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a lot of fun, dude. And I think my kids are really gonna get a kick out of that. I'm gonna get a kick out of it. And I don't know, man. It's gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. And I think
Yeah.
you're doing
It's
it.
meant
It's
to be
full, man.
read in single issues. And when the 10 years come and I put out a
Mhm.
trade, I'm going to have the readers vote on their 5 favorite King Cryptid issues. And then they can let me know what that is. And then how that tallies up, we'll put those 5 issues in as, the early essentials kind of thing of King Cryptid. But as far as putting out trades and everything else, and every 4 issues or 5 issues turned into a trade or whatever, that's part of what I hate about the modern era of comics.
Yeah,
Was
dude. It's like
everything
you're gonna
became a
die and
friggin'
wait.
trade.
Yeah, it's like no, have some fun, dude. Go read the book right now. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna wait for something. Like no, don't wait. Go get it right now, dude. I don't know. Like that's how I feel. Like comic. That was the whole fun about going on Wednesdays and things like that. And being real hungry for the next issue. Like just I want to get in there. I want to dig in there, read some King Cryptid. It's just nowadays it's not like that, man. It's gone, and it's been that's like what you're doing too with the style of comic book making. This has been gone for like 15 or more years.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is antiquated, but I don't give a shit.
No, no, it needs to happen. So
And
many people.
I know you're not trying to put it down or anything,
No,
but I mean this is it's me putting my money where my mouth is because
yeah, yeah.
this is what I love about comics. This whole series
Hmm.
is every
Hmm.
single thing I love about comics, and I hope that people who love comics the way I love comics, I hope
Yeah,
that they love this series too, because yeah, I do feel like it's turned into a trade waiting kind of industry. It's turned into a false collector mentality kind of thing with the variants
exactly. And it's
and the
like
forced
it's its own.
scarcity.
They're not even a collect. They're not even reading the comics. It's just like a
Yeah,
sub market
they
like
they used to be a
industry. It's
collector's
a
market,
collecting
and it was
industry.
yeah, it was a valuable issue and it was a collectible issue because something actually friggin' happened in the issue, you know?
Right.
Like it was a cool new character that just debuted and no one knew and gave a crap about it until like a year went by and we were like, "Oh crap, this character is really awesome. Let's try to find that first appearance," you know? Or just a death of a character or some kind of costume change or something was revealed about the plot line or about the character or whatever it was. Now it's all this like weird little forced collector mentality kind of
Weird.
stuff.
When you think about it, it's like, come on, dude. Like the only reason it should be in a bag and a board is because you're gonna bust it up, and you don't want to bust it up because you want to come back and look at it again.
Yeah, because you care about it, you want to take
Yeah,
care of it, and
I want to draw it or
100%, you know.
something. Or I want to read
But
it again. That's why I'm
but
gonna put
yeah,
it in
this
there. So
whole
it's
thing
not
of
gonna
like
fall apart.
the variants have gone out of control. It's just oh man, the whole industry. It's like no one is sitting there going, the character, the story, the reader comes first. Everything is about that. All three. That's the trifecta.
Dude,
And
100%.
yeah, and it seemed like along the way it turned just literally only because it should always be about sales too, because you need sales to keep making these
Yeah, to
things.
keep the machine greased and running.
But yeah, but the sales come because of the fact that it's good and people like it,
Yeah.
not just because of this weird thing of well, we got like a movie to put buzz for. We got,
Right.
we got to have shelf space that we're eating up so that someone else doesn't come in there and actually grow their own characters and their own universe or publisher label or whatever it is. Let's make sure that we just burden the reader, the retailer, everybody involved, because we got the deep pockets to do it. And if people think that that's not what's going on, they're completely blind to the mega conglomerate corporations that run the big two at this point.
Oh yeah, man.
They're 100%. They don't want you to. They don't care if you're going to sell a comic. What they don't want, they don't want you to grow a readership on those shelves. So if they could buy out the space and force the hand of the retailer and the reader as much as possible, and just stuff it with just, it could just be crap. Just and a lot of it is, but it could just be stuff that's a print for a cover with an empty book. If the
Just want it
retailer's
on
going
the
to put
shelf.
that, yeah, if the retailer's going to put that on the
real
shelf,
estate.
it's going to
Yeah.
take up that space that your book
it.
won't be on or someone else's won't be on. That's mission accomplished right there.
Yep, and they take the hit at the top too. I think a lot of them do. Like
Yeah.
they know that it's not going to sell, but it's going to go on the shelf.
Totally.
And then they just burn it, but they got
If-
their cash up front. Whether
If
it be
both
like
of
an
those
ESG or
companies,
whatnot.
yeah, if both of those companies were still of the mindset of no, we are comic book publishers first and foremost, we would see a
Right.
much different industry, much different company.
I mean, off topic, my LCS, like they're my buddies, dude. Like they're like a block from my house, and they put Marvel. I'm sorry, they put the big two on the bottom shelves, like when the pandemic happened. Indies go on the top two shelves, the big two go on the bottom, and then they kind of put manga and then they like kind of diversify with pops and figures, the McFarlane ones and the Marvel ones, and that's how they stayed afloat. They didn't stay afloat with the big two; they stayed afloat with indie being on the top two shelves. And I was like, "Whoa, bro! Like that's how you did it?" Yes. And it's most stores didn't do that, and they kind of went out of business.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, there's stores here that they won't even stock the big two on the shelf. They go, we'll do a pull list for you, but we're not putting them on the shelf because it's so sporadic and it's there's no consistency there anymore. The fan bases they used to have that were so rabid for them have largely given up on them.
Yeah.
So it's turned into like the collector market, the instant like flip the comic on eBay, and it's only this forced scarcity thing, and that's what makes it valuable, and that's insane.
It's like
That's
that
not
point,
comics.
like,
That's
why are
not
you even
sustainable.
doing it? It's like at that point,
Yeah.
why don't you just go work at why don't you just go Uber or something or go get a job doing something else? Like why are you even buying comics? you're just gonna
Yeah.
flip them. I mean, are you even flipping them for that much? Is it even worth your time? Like, dude,
Yeah, seriously.
it's like, come on,
You
dude.
know?
I don't know.
But yeah, there's so many different problems with the industry, and it's so unfortunate because they've been building to those problems for at least 20 to 30 years. These are problems that started in a major way with the advent of image, and it turning into this almost like the creator-owned mindset was the villain. You know,
Right.
and then it's changed over time to then the corporate mindset was the villain, and then it kind of found its footing in the early 2000s again, and then there was a lot of missteps that were taken along the way, and now we're kind of coming across the beauty of crowdfunding, which is creating this model and direct sales too, people building up their own sites,
Yes.
where they can actually go to the reader directly.
That's what's up. That's where it's at, I think.
And it's funny that, you know, the way that your show is named, Open the Gates, because I've experienced, I was in Diamond for 12 years. We run newsstands for 2 years. We had book distribution, the gatekeeping at so many levels. And even I, as a publisher, I'm a gatekeeper essentially, and I understand that. But the gatekeeping that I'm doing is trying to make sure that that not only am I excited about the books that I publish and I'm here for them, because I could be a publisher, and there are many, and I know of many as well, which is unfortunate, that will publish anything and pretty much everything. And especially if you give them a little something,
Yeah, right.
you know, they'll publish whatever the hell. They could care less, and they go, oh, someone probably likes it, whatever. You know, but
You're not being true to yourself, dude, and like what you
Yeah.
started, it's your baby,
but
dude.
that doesn't
You
mean
have
that
to-
you care about the readers. You know, that means that you're making inconsistent crap throughout your whole entire lineup that you're not even aware of. You're just like, oh, someone's probably reading it. I'm not reading it, but I guess someone will. If you don't believe in your product, you don't believe in the books that you're publishing, I mean, that's horrible. But we have all these different gatekeepers. You get the retailers, you get the distributors. When you get at a larger level of retail, oh my Lord, it's gatekeeping times 10. If you're not buying an end cap in a store, if you're not purchasing ad space left and right in every single catalog that goes out, if you're not paying $500 to get your book reviewed at a library, it's insane. It's insane. You're going to go nowhere. They're going to squash you.
People get ads in some of your
people
books.
can get odds and they can get ads in our books, and it's $25 for a page.
$25, dude, and gangs of people see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know some cats that, you know, I know, and you know, like in our little network, and they, you know, they're in your books.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's awesome, dude, that you do.
You know, especially if they get an ad and they design it properly. I always try to tell them to design it. Don't just do it so it's like a time-sensitive ad.
Right.
Do it so that it's something that someone a year or two from now, or even maybe longer, can open that book up, see your ad, and go to your website. You know, go to support you and learn more about you based on that. If you just do something that's like, you know, it's just a crowdfunder and it's up in, you know, April 2023, and let's say they see that ad in 2025, and there's no website there, there's no nothing else, there's no information to reach out to you, they're going to be like, all right, that's it.
Kind of weird, right?
Okay, yeah. So it's just, you're going to look at that and go, oh well, you know, I guess that was that. You don't get a lot of money for your ad dollar at that point. So make sure to design
the site,
evergreen type ads.
Or like a Shopify or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. You know, so but that's what this kind of stuff is all about. That's what I love. That's why I think we're seeing kind of the advent of something new. And it's a truer and better kind of symbiotic nature between creator and reader. I love the fact that, like I said before, you know, I got a million stories of King CRYPTID, but if the readers don't want it and they don't want to support the crowdfunder, or they don't want to buy the books or whatever it may be, they'll let me know directly. They'll let me know directly by not supporting. You know, and going, that's enough.
Be a big character,
so,
dude.
I hope so. I hope it grows over time. There's so much that I want to tell.
Like in my gut, like for me, like it checks a lot of boxes, dude, on different levels in different ways, you know, and a lot of people, you make it hard for people not to back it, and it's very like affordable. Your books always have been. So, and this character, I think, is just perfect for what you're trying to do, even for like alternative. Like he's like the perfect character. He couldn't be any better. You know, I don't like using that word perfect though, but I mean, he's just right. You know?
Yeah. No, I feel what you're saying. I 100% am in agreement, man, because it's something that I did I did the graphic novel thing with the chair, and people have said, "Oh, will you do a sequel? Will you do a prequel?" And to me, it's like I didn't want to do any of that, and I think it also will ruin the original story.
Yep.
It's one of those kinds of things where
Sometimes you just don't do it.
it's just a moment in time, and you tell that story.
It's a capsule, right? Time capsule.
Yep, exactly. But King Cryptid 100% was always designed to be an ongoing, practically never-ending series.
Yeah.
If someone isn't a fan of that kind of approach or whatever it may be, if they like their endings, if they like whatever, well, good news is that every issue is pretty much self-contained. So you have an ending every single issue.
Kind of like Batman the Animated Series.
Exactly, yeah. They all connect in essence, you know, the way like every day is a new day, but your life is your life, you know, and that's basically what this is. This is a series that's going to live for however long. Every episode, every issue is a day. You know, you don't go like, man, when does life... Well, I know, unfortunately, some people feel that way, but they go, when does life end? You know, and it's like, well, it ends when it's supposed to, you know? And and that's the thing is with this series, it ends when it's supposed to, but every single issue is a day unto itself. It has a morning, page 1, and an evening, you know, the sun rises, the sun sets kind of a thing. So good news is where some people, I think, and that's, I think, again, something that's happened with comics, where there's so many issues that you read the issue and you go, all right, that was clearly like part 1 of 6. You know, it feels like, so now I'm getting a snippet here of a much bigger story. You know, it's like you're getting like these tiny little meals. Every issue here is a meal. Right. You know, and the overall big series that connects to everything and references things. We got editor's notes that'll say, see issue, whatever, you know, if it's a certain plot point. It's stuff that's been missing from comics. And every single comic I love, you look at the damn thing, and it's there's writing in the comic. There's character development. There's editor's notes. There's thought bubbles. There's captions.
It's interactive fun.
There's like, fun, yeah.
It's a cartoon, dude. And it's like... It's just, I think what you're doing here, like not a lot of people are doing that right now, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. Like, and you're doing that, like what you're speaking of, you know, all the notes and at the bottoms and the internal monologue, and just you're doing this on newsprint, right?
Yep, on
newsprint. It's got that smell. You're doing the letters column in the back. It's coming around once a year. You're going to do this once a year, right?
Yeah, we're going to have a campaign for 4 to 5 issues every year.
So you're going to get at least 4 issues a year, which is awesome, you know? And so, like, again, calm back. If you got kids like me, you know, and you want to, you love your comics, you got to show your kids, you know what I mean? And, like, let them look at it. A lot of kids are into the manga and whatnot, which is awesome, too. But show them this, you know? Show them, like, the Americana, like how it used to be and how it could still be again in this way that Pete's doing it. You know, other people could do this, too. And it creates a buzz, and it's just great for everything. For the whole this new type of industry that we're doing with American comic books.
Absolutely,
love it.
You know, and every issue here makes it's. I put my heart and soul into every issue here, and it doesn't mean crap if someone doesn't enjoy it. But I just want people to know that I care deeply about this series. This character means a lot to me. Making sure that it's entertaining to the readers means a lot to me too. I think there's going to be some moments, if not in every issue, at least throughout the series, that are going to pack an emotional wallop for people. And that kind of stuff means a hell of a lot to me, because
that weighs a lot.
You know, the comics over the years, man, and I'm sure you could say the same thing. You know, these kinds of stories and these kinds of characters have really helped through some dark times. You know, and if I could kind of do that sort of thing and carry that torch for what comics did for me, and I could do that for someone else out there, and it touches them, inspires them in the same way, maybe it makes them want to create their own stories, their own comics, then that's just beautiful. That's just part of it. And I want to see people hopefully maybe even being more inspired to want to try to aim to tell something that really means something to them, you know, stories with heart, stories with characters that will have a lot of development and emotional weight, and really kind of set out something to, you know, maybe even attempt at leaving the world in a better place than you know, when we got into it.
For 5 minutes.
Yeah, you know, but it's like as if everybody's out there trying to do their best, and I think they are, and that's kind of what the core of King Cryptid is too. Is someone just trying to do their best, doing the most that they can do in their own little corner of the world. And I think that if everybody was able to do that kind of a thing, then we would have a fantastic world.
For sure.
But it's, you know, it's just like in the story though, is that everyone isn't trying to do that, you know. But it's important that you still are trying to do your best. You're still trying to look out for the things you care about and the people you care about. And that's the heart of King Cryptid, is that kind of a story.
That's awesome. It's a good message for the, you know, anyone that's
we need more of that nowadays, you know.
Yeah, some more heroism, you know. Everything's kind of dark.
Yeah, there's so much like postmodern nihilistic bullshit, and it's oh my god, it's depressing, and it's not entertaining. I don't know how anyone could be entertained by it.
No.
You know, I love those moments, and I think a lot of people do too. I love those moments where you see. Not just in a comic, but maybe in a film or whatever, when you know something's going to happen, right? Everything is starting to rise. You know, you get the musical score, you get that moment that's going to hit, and you just get that like lump in your throat that's like, yeah, hell yeah, you know? And it's that kind of payoff, that catharsis of seeing that adversity kind of, you know, you go up against it and you triumph through it. And that's the kind of stuff that I find with these stories is inspiring. And that's the thing that we need to show people, that even though in life it doesn't always pay out that way, it doesn't mean that it will never pay out that way. It doesn't mean that you should stop trying. It doesn't mean that if you get hit, you should stay down. You know, keep going for it. You know, try to pursue your dreams as much as you can. Do the right thing. Take care of yourself and the people you care about. It's just classic stuff in terms of just trying to leave the world in a better place. That's all that we got at the end of the day. And it's just a shame when you get this messaging that comes through with a lot of these stories, that the overall message just feels like, it kind of feels like the way I feel when I'm done watching some of this stuff. And I don't watch a lot of it anymore, but I feel like, what was the point? What was the point?
What did that accomplish? I'm like worse than I was before.
You're just you're left with like, I just wasted some. I wasted some time. Maybe you wasted some money or whatever.
Yeah.
And you sit there and go, did this enrich my life in any way, shape, or form? Did this give me something to think about? Did this inspire me to be better, or you know, care about my fellow people or my fellow creatures on the earth in a different way? It's just like, no, it just hits you, and you just went, oh, I just wasted some time, and I don't know what the hell I got out of that. You know, and to me, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah,
I'd rather someone hates my series.
Me too.
Than it feels like they wasted their time.
Yeah, that's the worst. Like, man, like, yeah, no, like, oh, like, fuck that. I don't want to. You know, that's the best way to do it.
Let me impact you and affect you somehow. But I'm looking forward to getting this out there, and it'll be out soon. It's going to go to the printer next week. And finishing touches happening this weekend, pre-press, all that good stuff, and then it's in the hands of the printer, and then hopefully they get it to me sooner than later, and then I can get it out there to everybody.
That's awesome, man. And you can still back it right now. It's cool if we go over some of your tiers real quick, like maybe the featured one right here, the King Cryptid comic case. Plus case. I mean, I backed this, but I got it on day one, so I got a different one. But there's so much stuff you guys could get right now if you back this book.
Yeah, so on that, you get 2 copies of each. In King Cryptid as well, you get 2 covers for each issue. So you flip over the issue, and it's got another cover on the back. Instead of doing the whole, like, let's print another issue as a variant to get a different cover, we give you 2 covers for one issue. So you get 2 copies of each. I sign one of them, and then you get 4 prints, and you get the collector case as well. And there's a lot of bonuses at this point on the campaign, so you get all those too.
Wait till you guys see the bonuses when we scroll down after this.
With the campaign, you could build your own bundle. That $1 works right back into shipping, so we don't just take $1 and run away with it. The King Cryptid trading card, that's a bonus for everybody, but if you want to purchase multiples, and many people you can purchase the multiple. We got the issues separately as well. I sign all the issues, so we got 1, 2, and 3 and 4 on there.
So you see this, guys, right? $3, okay?
Yep, so and shipping's flat $5 too in the U.S.
You ain't gonna beat Pete's deal. I'm telling you this right now.
You can get the digital version. That's $5 as well. So you get all 4 issues digitally for $5.
Oh yeah. Sweet.
And then and the moon coin. That's. Let me see. I got one here.
That's awesome, dude.
All right. So this coin is
You had some really cool like stretch goals, man. Like you went all out on this campaign.
Yeah, this thing weighs a ton too.
So awesome. And I remember you would drop like a update and like a stretch goal on the full moon, and so it was always interactive. I mean, I don't know if you're gonna do it again next campaign, but
oh yeah, every really single campaign is gonna be like that till we get into the part where the issues are done, and I'm like, okay, we're in hunkering down mode. But yeah, we're gonna have I got a whole bunch of things planned, and that's the thing that's awesome about this series too, is that the more issues we have, the more characters we have. There's a lot of characters in these 4 issues. I really kind of couldn't do a lot of merchandise for because I didn't want to give a lot of things away. So instead, now everyone's going to have those first 4 issues. I can actually merchandise some of these characters and put them onto like stickers or do something cool with them.
So cool.
And the more we build up, the more characters we have, the more kind of fun, cool stuff we can do. It just kind of snowballs. It's great.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely be doing the full moon and new moon specials. So yeah, we got that moon coin. If you were a backer and you contributed $50 or more, and that includes shipping, you get a free one of those. If you wanted to actually purchase one separately, you could do that too. We got the story script. So what I was talking about before with how I write it and what I give to the artists. There are spoilers in it. So beware. And I don't mean spoilers for the first 4 issues. I mean, there's some spoilers for down the line.
I don't think anyone's done that yet. Like, put their script on.
Like, give their script?
I can't, because I backed a couple campaigns, but I haven't seen that yet. I don't recall anyone else doing that. I remember you putting it up there, and like, that's really cool. Because I don't know, like me, I like to know like how people. I like to know the process of how people make comics.
Yeah.
Like, just like I don't know if it's a hobby or just something I'm interested in. You know. I like to know how people make their books.
It's good for that. You know, if you want to see what makes me tick when I'm writing and what I'm handing off to the artist, if you want to learn how to write a script, I'm probably going to be the wrong guy to go to, because you're going to read it and go, this isn't really the script, because it's scene descriptions for page by page. And I'm leaving a lot open to interpretation for the artist to be creative. So you really have to have been doing comic creation for a while to not just as a writer be comfortable with your artist doing that, but also have an artist who's been doing this for a while too, who's comfortable with being creative and doesn't need constant, panel 1, panel 2, camera angle this, and my scripts aren't like that. I have written scripts like that, but this for King Cryptid, I want the artist to give me their genuine interpretation of these scenes and go for it. If something, once in a while I'll be like splash page and whatever else but it's very, very minimal with that kind of direction. But either way, you could see what the artists had to work with and see what I'm doing when I'm putting together one of the story scripts.
Sweet, man. That's $10, guys.
Yeah, and I signed the script too.
Okay.
Yeah. So the $15 tier, which is pretty popular, you get 2 copies of each issue. Actually, no, you don't get 2. I'm sorry. You get 1 copy of each issue, and you get the blank. But they're all signed. And what you're seeing there, you might see 8 comics on there, but what it is the front and the back cover. So you're seeing the front cover, and then if you were to flip the issue, you would see that other cover that looks like it should be a cover, but it's really kind of like the cover B to the whole thing. It's not a flip book, but it's a flip cover.
That's awesome. So if there's any artists out there too, you're doing some cons, you want to throw down on some King Cryptid, you could do that.
Yeah, get the blank. You'll make your money back instantly.
Yep. Instantly.
That's the funny part. Make money off of my campaign
in a blink.
Yeah. Speaking, if you really want to make some money, this tier you get 5 of the blank covers for $15. If I see a lot of artists that sell these for $50 to $100 when they do a sketch cover. If you do the math on that, you spend $15 to make $200. That's pretty good,
right?
That's a pretty good deal. So if you're
interested,
if you're interested in that, go for it. Pick up the blank bundle. We also have King Cryptid short boxes on these. Now these short boxes are alternate short boxes, so the cover is attached, the lid is attached. but they still fit perfectly in a short box house if you do want that extra reinforcement. These short box houses are made by BCW. We just have them on the campaign just in case you want to purchase them all at the same time.
Sweet. It's got big King Cryptid sitting on his throne of bones right there, right on the front.
And then, so you see, yeah, here's the one where you get the 2 comics. So for the $25, you get the 2 comics. One of them is signed, one is not signed, and then you get the prints as well. And these prints are just exclusive to this campaign. They won't be on the campaign in the future.
Get them now. Get it while the getting is good.
And there's the collector case. The collector case has art all the way inside of it. It's got art on the inside and the bottom. It's got when you open it up, you got art on it. It's all over the place. I was really shocked that we could be able to actually do anything like this, because having this level of merchandising on any campaign was always just some kind of impossible dream in terms of yeah, whatever, just get some stickers and we'll throw it on something and there you go. But this is all official printed up stuff. It looks great. It's a sturdy box. It's big enough to hold, I think, 20 issues bagged and boarded. And then also there's a design element. If you actually scroll on the campaign itself, if you scroll down, I think down or up, I forget. But you can see, it might be up then. Sorry about that. Oh, no, I was right. Okay, it is down. Okay, scroll down a little bit more. We'll see what I'm talking about with the spine. So, yeah, right there. So there's going to be 5 of these collector cases, and the spine is going to overlap and create that image there by Nick Hunter. So the cool. 2022 collector case is that one little spine there. You might see that and go like, what is that? And then 2023's case is going to have that different spine. By the time we get to 2026, if you've got all 5 cases, you're going to see on your bookshelf a nice, cool image there from Nick Hunter with King Cryptid.
So cool.
Yeah, and then that'll hold sort of about as many issues as I might end up making of this series. About, what is that, 150 or so issues?
Yeah, man.
That's
awesome.
that's the goal. And then if that gets all filled up, you get the short box. The short box can hold about 150 more. That sounds about right about how many issues I want to make, about 300 or so.
Oh, you will. It's going to happen.
Oh, man, reader willing.
Oh, it'll happen. I guarantee it.
But yeah,
you got a short box too, huh?
Yep. Yeah, the short box is great. It's really sturdy. It holds 150 to 200 comics, depending on how you store them. If you bag and board them, it's about 150. If you don't bag and board them, 200. And it has that attached lid. Like I said, it'll close. There's no separate lid that goes on top of it. And there's art all around, even art on the flaps too. Yeah.
It's dope.
Yep. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that.
And then if you guys are going to back right now, there's a lot of stretch goals that have been unlocked already.
Yeah, if you scroll all the way up, man, there's a bunch of posters and all kinds of cool stuff.
So look at all that. Look at all this cool stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of... you get a random trading cards. We got the trading cards too, and these are a lot of fun. Let me see. Do I have...
I've seen that, man, like the ones that are in the gold, right?
Yeah, so every backer gets one of these. Every backer gets one of these die-cut cards here. This is just for this first campaign. We'll probably do a different one on the next campaign.
It was like a special die-cut. I haven't seen anybody do that before. It's really cool.
Yeah, and that's just a free bonus. And then I thought I had King Cryptid trading cards here, but I think I packed them all. They're all the trading card packs are all packed up. Those are all gone already at this point. They were gone in the first 2 weeks of the campaign.
I remember
but on the next campaign, I'm going to do something fun. I'm going to design trading card boxes, like those little boxes that trading cards generally come in. Maybe about 20 packs per box. And 1 pack in the box will be like a special pack that has some pretty cool, like a sketch card, a signed card, etc. in every single box. But we'll have that for people who want to get a whole box of it. Maybe even if they want, resell some of the packs. It's up to them. But we'll do more packs and a couple of the boxes for the next campaign. Because people really love those. I didn't think they were going to love the trading cards so much, but
people love trading cards, bro. Like, I don't know what, like always, like, oh my god, like people love trading cards more than anything. It seems like sometimes.
Yeah, and these we have a lot of fun with these because it's like every single issue cover is on the trading card, so you can sort of kind of
Nice.
see it. But on the back of them, it's a lot more fun because we'll have one. Like so, let's say there's 2 cards per issue. So and one card will describe the issue, and then the other card describes the New England Cryptid Research Organization's case file report of what happened in the issue, which is kind of fun because of the fact that basically how they're describing the events of the issue are kind of different than how the events play out within the issue. So it's kind of this added mythos to what's occurring within the series as well. You get some extra insight. It's all part of the fun of the world of King Cryptid.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to get the shirt too, man. And now it's upgraded to glow in the dark.
Yep.
I got that one, and I like too how you did that. The poster at the top, the 11 by 17. That almost reminds me of like a Hammer, like, or even like a Italian like horror movie poster. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love
totally.
the look of that. That's what I love about it. And then also the Beware by the was it the society that you were speaking of?
Yeah. They put out a man. I had everything. I just reorganized everything around here a week ago, but I had the flyer. So the Beware of basically of King Cryptid flyer. It's essentially being created by the New England Cryptid Research Organization, and they're the ones that are putting this out everywhere because King Cryptid to them is public enemy number one. They want the public to fear this guy. They don't want him to trust this guy. They don't want anybody to even think that this guy is anything close to a hero. They'd much rather have you think like Brugg, the swamp monster, was a hero. They'll defend that over King Cryptid. They view King Cryptid as a thorn in their side that they thought was gone for a while. So they put out this poster, just kind of this little flyer, beware of this beast in the White Mountain region. And the White Mountains are a real region too in New Hampshire. But it's kind of funny just modeling the flyer after several other kinds of, beware of whatever kind of creature and things like that over time. But it's just a fun extra bonus to see something. And it's funny. I actually posted one of these at my local post office, and they took it down after 3 days. And I'm kind of close with them, and I was like, I see you took down the flyer I put, and they were like, oh wow, that was yours. They're like, yeah, well, it was so real. I had to take it down. I didn't know what to make of it. She's like, I thought that there was someone playing like a prank on us. I thought there was something that was going to make people like panicked. And I was like, I guess I did my job. Designing it. So if you do post the bonus flyer anywhere, just be aware. Don't put any information that might trace people back to you. Let me get in trouble. Don't get in trouble for me. But yeah, it's just another fun element of this series and making stuff like that and incorporating these real world elements, bringing this character into our world essentially.
That's awesome, Pete. You guys hear that? And the campaign's gonna be coming down pretty soon. So if you guys kind of back, you got to do it now if you want to get all the tchotchkes. So this is
holy smokes! I see Jason back. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that.
Hell, sorry, I can't see the chat, guys. If you're there, my bad.
You said that just back the sketch covers. Great deal. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, it is a great deal. You get 5 of those for $15. The shipping's $5 in the U.S. And if you sell one of them, you made all your money back. And
you hear that, guys?
If you're a talented artist like Jason, you probably sell all 5 and make a killing. Make money on my campaign. Nothing makes me happier than seeing people make money off of my stuff.
Back King Cryptid.
I know that sounds sarcastic, but it's true.
Oh man, it's awesome. Yeah, man, like that campaign, it's really something else. It's really, I haven't seen anything like it. That fully interactive experience.
I'm going all out, and I know people probably, as a publisher, hell, I've heard it a lot. When it's like, I'm making this the rest of my life. I got 100 issues planned. It's a big load of bullshit from a lot of people. I swear to you, this isn't bullshit.
No, I don't think it is. I can tell you're but, 100%. Like,
oh man, I'm so all in. I've said it before, and I don't want this to happen. But even if Alterna Comics, as we know it right now, went under, in terms of I'm not publishing anyone else's stuff anymore. I'm
Yeah.
still putting out King Cryptid.
Yeah,
I'm
like
still
it's your
making
baby.
that.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. I'll still be back.
So,
No matter
well,
what,
it
dude.
means a lot, man. But
I love
yeah,
me some
it's
alternative too. Like I love
it's
both.
it's crazy. It's crazy just to see people too like yourself that are rooting and hoping that it does well. It's I tell you, man, like when I put out, man, that was 13, 14 years ago. When I put out The Chair as a graphic novel, and I've said this before when it was re-released in 2017, you get people that read it as a graphic novel, and then they just let you know what they thought about it. There's never that involvement, engagement factor
Right.
that's coming from issue to issue. You know,
Yeah.
when people are like theorizing on the events that they just read. And I experienced some of that in 2017 when it was released as a miniseries for the 4 issues of it. But with this, I really can't wait because it's an ongoing and there's so much stuff that's happening. I really can't wait to see what you guys think, how you're theorizing on certain events, characters, all that kind of great stuff. Oh my Lord, that stuff gets me psyched and pumped about making these stories and, you know, paying attention to you guys too with what characters you're liking, you know, how you're anticipating certain events playing out and all that great stuff. I love that engagement factor with the readers. I think that's some of the best stuff in comics. It's unlike anything else.
Oh yeah, and that's how I think that's how you know that you're on the right path with like your book that you're putting out. People care that much about it, and I think it's gonna, you know, show like later on in the future. I do have another question to ask you. I'm gonna step away for about a minute or two, but I want you to answer this, in the best way you can. What's your favorite movie?
What's my favorite movie?
Mm-hmm.
Like a specific movie or a type of movie?
Doesn't matter. Your favorite movie, and if it's more than one, top 3.
Top 3, man. I guess I can't really go on favorite, but I guess I can go on most watched. I think my most watched movie is probably Ghostbusters from 1984, the first and best, and you know, only 2 of them were made. I don't like that recent new one. I definitely don't like that other one. But Ghostbusters 84, the first one, I think it'd probably be my most watched and favorite movie. And then if I had to go with a 3, oh man, I guess I'd have to go with, oh boy, what am I? I've watched Rocky a lot. I've watched Empire Strikes Back a lot. There's quite a bit. It's tough. In the chat, let's see. Oh, Jay Dollar says first comic I ever picked up was a Slimer Ghostbusters book. Yeah, I've always loved Ghostbusters. That just it just hits like so many different spots right on the head. Yeah, I guess I would have to say that. I'm looking around at the movies I've got. Yeah, it'd probably be, if I had to do 3, my most watched 3, probably be Ghostbusters, Rocky, and Empire Strikes Back. If I had to go deeper into something that's outside of that element, man, it's tough. There's all kinds of movies that hit in all kinds of different ways. Lately, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Lately, Planet of the Apes, Network, Godfather. This is in all kinds of things. If you missed it, I don't know if you did. I said Ghostbusters.
But did you like the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters?
Oh, I love the real Ghostbusters until Dave Coulier came along. And then there's like a couple of episodes that are still good. But then when Janine really changes, it's just never the same.
They had that on Netflix. Me and the kid were watching that. And I was trying to, you know, this was 2 years back. And I was like, oh, because I used to watch that cartoon as a kid and I loved it, you know. But me and the daughter, we were watching that. We were just really loving that cartoon as well. That first movie,
yeah.
Man.
That first movie.
Something special.
Yeah. That's it's hard for me to go into favorites, so I'm trying to think about most watched. And Ghostbusters is definitely up there. So I would say Ghostbusters is number 1. if watching something over and over again is indicative of being a favorite, then it would be
For me,
Ghostbusters, and then I would say Rocky, and then Empire Strikes Back.
for me as a kid, like I always wanted Egon's PKE meter. I think the one that opens and closes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was the one toy as a child that I always wanted. I talk about this sometimes on live streams, but I always wanted that toy, and they have like a bunch of them now. You can get them, whatever, right? But I always wanted it, and I could never get it, man. And I love that. I love that first movie, and I think Bernie Wrightson did some character designs for that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So it's just like a
Oh,
multitude of greatness for me. Anyways, for
Yeah,
that movie.
it's just the whole story of it too, of just even creating it is a story unto itself.
Oh yeah, the
You know?
whole journey of making the movie itself.
Yeah, yeah, all the crazy things of what was going on at the time, and then like losing like Belushi, and then at one point in time Eddie Murphy was supposed to be involved. I think Eddie Murphy was supposed to be Winston's character.
Oh really?
And then yeah, and then he was too huge at that point in time. It just didn't work out. But just the whole thing with like Slimer being an ode to John Belushi, and
From Animal
you know,
House.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, that movie would probably I'd probably have to say that that's my favorite. Other than that, it's just I've watched so many different kinds of movies all over the place. It
It's
just
hard,
runs
right?
the gamut. It's difficult, man. It's difficult. Even just looking at what I have.
Ew.
What I have here, I've got, just reading what I got. I got Murder by Death. I got Office Space. I got Rocky. All 6 Rocky movies. I'm not really a fan of the Creed movies, even though
Me
some
neither. I've
people
never
like
seen 'em.
those. I saw the first one and I had to shut off
seen
in
'em, dude.
20 minutes. It just didn't have the same heart
What
that the
about
Rocky movies
Rambo?
had.
You're not into the Rambo
Oh,
movies?
Rambo. Love Rambo. Yeah.
See, I love Rambo. I ain't gonna lie. I never really got into the Rocky movies that much. I mean, I do like them. I like 3 and 4 a lot, and 5. But
Yeah, those
I
are
don't know.
fun.
I
Yeah.
probably have to go back and watch them. And the first one, I like the first one a lot. I think there was something about 2 though. But I love Rambo.
At this point,
Those
yeah,
are my-
man, I love the first Rocky and I love the last Rocky, Rocky Balboa. Those are like great
Oh, yeah.
bookends.
I always forget about Boa. Yeah, Balboa is
Yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, the Rambo movies are great too. That the Last Blood was awesome.
A lot of people are hating on that movie.
Oh,
like,
man,
like,
it's-
oh, that's not a Rambo movie. It's a Danny Trejo movie.
it's-
Brian.
No.
But I like it because it's Last Blood, and like the first one is so like the word. It's a lot like First Blood, dude. Like it's very like
Yeah, it's to me it's like Rocky and Rocky Balboa. They're nice bookends to to the progression of the character.
right, right.
And it's like, yeah, I get it. You have to have some suspension of disbelief. But I liked it. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
I loved
liked
it.
it.
I loved it. Yeah.
Even the, what was it? Was it just straight up Rambo?
Yeah, that was my favorite. Where he's in Burma.
Yeah.
The best one.
That
dude.
was nuts.
I love that movie. I was like,
Man.
whoa! I was floored by that, and then I loved Expendables, the first Expendables movie. And I like what Stallone. He feels like he liked making those movies. He really put a lot into them. There was also something I wanted to ask you earlier. You're an awesome artist, dude. Who are some of your influences growing up, or just
man. Some of my influences. I think my first biggest influence was when I was a kid. I loved scary stories to tell in the dark.
Oh, dude, that's crazy, man. Yeah, Schwartz, right?
Schwartz was the writer. I think
or,
Stephen Gamble.
Yeah, sorry.
And oh my lord, like that was, to me, he was like he's like Sienkiewicz before Sienkiewicz.
Yeah, he's so scary, dude. Like, oh my god, like.
Yeah, that stuff was mind blowing to me, and
still is, dude. Still like it's still like next level, dude. As far as I'm concerned, even for horror, you know what I mean?
Incredible. Yeah.
Like you could take that style and make if you could do it successfully and get a good writer, you can make some badass comic books. If you could throw down like somehow like on some pages, you know what I mean? Like
oh yeah,
I ain't gonna lie, I was actually thinking about that. Like, what if I tried to learn that style? Like, if I was good enough, like people aren't doing that in comics. Because those books scare the shit out of people, dude. Like, there was a documentary on Tubi, I believe, about the book family, and I watched that, and it affected a lot of people, man. Like, the book was in libraries, like it was hard to get, and there was a lot of controversy.
Yeah, they were pulling it out of schools and libraries and everything, and I loved it. I had all 3.
Yeah, dude, so good, man. Like I've seen them at Barnes and Noble. In October, I took the kid over there, and I was gonna pick it up, and because the movie came out, we hadn't watched it yet. The movie was okay. I mean, it can't hold a candle to the. It's like whatever, right? But the books, man, like in the artwork, it's inspiring too, man.
To me, I thought that the movie was just a bad approach in general. You know, if they had isolated it as like an HBO series or something like that or whatever,
Apology,
and
like
Tales from the Cryptid up, that would have been amazing. But
no, you're right.
Yeah, and get different horror directors in there with each episode. Oh my lord, yeah.
Carpenter on one and get a little.
My lord,
a little Guillermo.
That to me is the way that's done right.
No, you're right.
Putting it together in some kind of narrative with a movie, it just felt like the Goosebumps movie, but with like a higher, age rating.
Yeah, no, it was. You're right.
But like it was cool to see some of the visuals come to life, but as a cohesive narrative, it just felt like, this isn't where it should be. It should be, telling all these different things and expanding upon them and making their own episode.
Isn't it kind of worse sometimes when that happens? Because you're like, it could have been so much more. Like, don't even give it to me at all. No. But it's like that.
It's tough when you're a creative person too, and you're coming up with stories all the time. It's really tough to sit through stuff like that sometimes because I just sit there and I'm like, it could have been this and it could have been that, and you could have done it that way. But so I guess
right?
He was one of my influences as far as like comics and getting back to that. When I was a kid, I loved Joe Jusko. Joe Jusko's work was my lord, masterpieces.
Remember that Deadpool where he's like squatting down?
Remember that. Right.
I used to pencil that all the time. I remember I penciled that once as a kid, and I was like,
Spider-Man and the Web.
Yeah.
But I loved. I mean, I grew up in the late '80s, early '90s with comics, so it's like Silvestri, Jim Lee, McFarlane, the Koepp brothers, all that kind of stuff. But other than that, when I was a kid especially, and still to this day, and it was great to be able to meet him and shake his hand and thank him, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is like GOAT level to me. He was amazing stuff. Got me into comics, got me into all the different toys, and anytime now, it's so identifiable. You see the merch with those classic DC Comics heroes and that art on there, and it's Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and they know, the merchandising departments know. I almost feel like let them just dictate the comic department. The merchandising departments know what people are into. The classic versions, the iconic nature of these heroes. They know what sells. They know what people are into. If the newer kind of stuff sold, that would be plastered all over the merch, and it's very little of it is actually that. But I loved meeting him and just letting him know he's such a nice guy, and being able to talk to him, shake his hand, and thank him for just inspiring me and just it was great. But his work, I loved his work, and man, there's so many artists. But as far as who influences my own art, it's kind of like an amalgamation of all of those artists all in one, I guess.
Do you think we'll ever get a King Cryptid issue illustrated by you? You've probably been asked this before. Do you think that's ever in the cards?
I've said the only way that's going to happen, and it's going to be two things. I'm going to have to fall back in love with sequential art, which is not really my thing. I've wrestled with that over the years, and I'm like, I could have wrote 4 more issues in the time it took me to do this half-assed awful one. And I could have had someone else draw this one, and it would have looked better. It's going to have to be that. I'm going to have to rededicate myself to sequential art. It's very unlikely. That's I'll say it's like a 2 out of 10 on that happening. I would say 1, but I want to give some people hope out there.
You could go Bernie Wrightson like you did with Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking? But, you get that one story where you could just kind of work on it for 20 minutes a day and finish it in 10 years.
But the readers deserve better than that. I could just hire someone else to do it, and But the other thing that would need to happen is Alterna, as we know it, would have to cease to exist. It would have to literally be King Cryptid as my sole focus, because especially even when I'm in crowdfunder fulfillment mode, it's really difficult for me to give my attention to even doing streaming or whatever else. Like once the
Right.
books are here and it's time to fulfill and send stuff
Crazy
out, I
full-time,
can't do
like,
anything
job.
else until that's done. And so
Yeah.
if it was like that with focusing on an issue to draw an issue, I would end up being negligent on everyone else's stuff at Alternative that needed to get done because I'd be
Yeah.
so immersed in getting this done.
Yeah.
So it would have to be those two things to happen. So the likelihood of both is very, very small.
What
So
about
if
a
you're out
cover?
there, I did the back cover to
Oh, okay.
issue 1.
Sick.
And I'll be
sick,
doing a
sick.
back cover again this time around on one of the 5 issues on the next campaign. But I like the
dude.
front main cover to be the artist who has the interior work. I
That's
don't like
pretty smart.
I don't like robbing the interior artist of their prestige moment of having a cover. I know a lot of
People want you to draw one though.
yeah.
People do, right? I'm not the only one that's asking.
Oh yeah, people are always asking me. You know, I always feel bad too because I always have to be like, oh well, it's not really my thing to do sequential art. I don't have the patience for it. A cover, I don't mind doing a cover. But the sequentials, it's like a whole different level of artistry. It's like combining the talent with the patience. And I don't have the patience. But some people go, well, you could just do like those 5-minute type of cards you do and just kind of sketch out. And that was the one thing that I was like, well, if I did do it that way, I would then get somebody else to kind of, do like the colors and finishing work and that kind of.
That'd be sick too, man. That'd be dope too.
Yeah. But then again, it always goes back to me going, I could just hire someone else to do this and I'll just write some more issues.
Right. No, I hear
Because
you, man.
it's kind of a joyous process for me being able
Right,
to
right.
kind of put the story out and then
Yeah.
the artist comes back with, every single day's like Christmas, getting those pages in and being like, oh,
yeah.
man, it's so cool.
It came out of your head and you get to see
Yeah.
it come to like fruition. Look at
Yeah.
you got Bascom right here.
Oh, thank
your
you,
art.
man. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man. I didn't even know like till like probably a few years in that you were an artist. I didn't know. I thought you were just a publisher and a writer. And then I started seeing you do these sketch cards, and it was just like, wow, man, he's really good artist. Like, I'd love to see more of his work. And then
Thank you, man.
he came out with the King Cryptid. I was like, dude, he's probably got like at least one story in there, like or something. Like that'd be cool to see his art, like for him to do it. But yeah, man, maybe one day, possibly.
Yeah, maybe one day. I won't say absolutely no, but there's going to be a lot of different factors that have to work out for it to for the stars to align. But it's hey, maybe who knows? It's either I'm going to draw an issue or they're going to finally admit there's a life visiting us from other worlds. We'll see which one happens first.
I also got to know, man, who are some of your like main influences for writing? It could be
Oh,
comic
man.
books, it could be like literature, it could be screenwriters.
Well, again, again Alvin Schwartz with those scary stories books.
They hit hard and quick, huh?
Yeah, they hit hard and quick. They tell you everything they got to tell you. They get out and then they go right to another one.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Goosebumps when I was a kid. R.L.
Me too.
Stein.
I got my kid. I'm making her read those right now.
Oh, no way.
Book reports,
I also
yeah.
loved Bruce Coville. Bruce Coville was kind of like an R.L. Stein level writer.
Sounds familiar, man. That name
Yeah.
sounds familiar.
He had a bunch of stories about like aliens being your teacher or whatever, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember him. My like fourth grade teachers and Alien. I think
Yeah.
the covers were kind of like really painted, kind of like Joe
Yeah.
style art.
Yep.
Okay, I remember
Exactly.
that.
So that
I
kind of
remember
stuff shaped me when I was a kid. Again, like comic wise and everything else, I grew to love a lot of Alan Moore stuff, but number one for me was always Chris Claremont. Loved Chris Claremont, loved Chuck Dixon's work. Yeah, those were my big top writers, and then Dave Michelini was really good. But yeah, I loved a lot of that stuff. I thought that Claremont gave so much heart and so much depth to a lot of the characters in the X-Men. And then Chuck Dixon brought in a lot of great, not just great plot-driven kind of works, but some really good character moments and really developed characters really well. But yeah, it's funny looking back at everything that I like and looking through my collection, like you said before with the movies, because if I look at it also, and I never thought about it, and then I almost didn't mention them, but I have a hell of a lot of comics from John Byrne. And I never think though that he's like one of my favorite writers and artists, even
You got him,
though even though I'm like I got like 700 comics that have John
right?
Byrne involved.
Yeah, man.
So John Byrne, and that's the thing is everyone's always like, oh, these types of people are like these polarizing kinds of characters, and I'm like, give me a great creative person that isn't,
Right.
you know.
They have their views and
That's what makes them great
quirks,
creators,
and that's who they are and their characters,
because
right?
they got a clear cut, vision of what's what in the world, and they're able to kind of utilize that along with the world, and they're aware of the world around them, which is important too. So even if you don't agree with them on every single issue or whatever it may be, that's also what allows them to create characters of depth. So when
Exactly.
we want to see people in the world as creative individuals, all of a sudden they're just very narrow minded and they have one field of view, and nothing can go outside of that. No wonder why we have the stories that we have that come across more like propaganda than
Right.
storytelling, because the
Exactly.
propaganda, positive or negative propaganda, it's always telling you what to think as
Exactly.
opposed to leaving events up to interpretation. And just saying, this is how this character is reacting. This is what this character is going through. How do you feel about it?
Right.
So it's different than telling you what you should feel. And that's the viewpoint of a writer with a very narrow-minded view. But it's unfortunate that we don't have a lot of creative people like that nowadays because they're not really allowed to exist. But that's
Yeah.
kind of what I love, and a lot of people love them too. And even people that I see them shake their fist about these kinds of creative people, but if they were honest with themselves, they go, "Yeah, they're my
Honest with
favorites
themselves.
too."
They have rules too. Like these voices, they have rules. In their art, in their storytelling, and the way they see the world. And this is, we might not like the rules of the way they do the things and the way that they make their stories. But again, they have their own voice and their characters and their quirks. And that's who they are. These artists and these writers and these creators.
Oh
And
yeah,
again, we might
yeah,
not agree with them, but that the story is good, and it's
yeah,
definitely
and
worth revisiting.
no matter what, at the end of the day, you can't say that agree with them or not about whatever.
Right.
The one thing that you can't say is that they're not interesting.
Exactly.
And that's first and foremost as a storyteller. What you should always strive to be is interesting. If
Not
you're,
meh.
if you're just gonna, it's like who goes out there as a creative person and says, you know what would be really cool? I think that people would love if I'm just as boring as hell.
Right. it just
if
it
if if I'm just really boring and tell really boring stories, and I make really one-dimensional, boring characters, I think people would love that. Who the
sad,
hell is
man.
out there doing that? You're trying to come up with
Someone's doing
interesting,
it. They're
always
doing
making
it.
something interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're doing it, it's because they're doing it for some weird reason. And it's probably
Yeah,
not for money, or there's something wrong with them in the head, or they're brainwashed into thinking that. But anybody that's really like an artist and they have to tell something, they're gonna say it through their art and their stories, and then it's gonna be good. Otherwise, it's
yeah, and that's where you get that shared kind of human experience. You get that
yeah,
catharsis from the person creating to the person that's absorbing it, reading it, viewing it, whatever it may be, and that's how you get that shared connection. All of a sudden, you don't even need to exist at the same point in time. I could be long gone, and someone can read this work,
yep,
and there's this cool little moment that we're sharing, even though we don't even share the planet anymore. And it's all because of that, because it's something that's storytelling and art. It's an amazing thing, and it's something that I think that not many of us really are truly aware of until sometimes until it's too late. But it's
right.
like that's the thing that's so cool, is that we share all of this throughout time. And that's why I love too, telling a story about King Cryptid. He's 500 years old, and there's so much to tell, and there's a lot of perspective to offer, and so it keeps me on my toes as a storyteller, and it makes me try to be interesting with different things. But hopefully, it also keeps the reader's interest too.
Oh, I'm sure it will, man. I know I will be. I know I'm ready for more and more stories.
Well, thank you, man.
I
Appreciate
got
that.
one more question to ask you, man. What's
Okay,
your
sure.
favorite beer? I mean, if you do drink, and if you don't drink, what's your favorite
Oh
drink?
man, I'm more of a liquor guy.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I like me some
like
liquor too.
like all of them, like rum, vodka, whiskey, tequila. Not so much. Tequila is a little too dry for me.
It's kind of peppery.
Yeah, if I had to say beer, I mean, like I I would have to side more with like a lager than an ale. Pretty much, I don't have a favorite of a beer. I'm not that much of a connoisseur of that, but that's definitely more of a.
So I'm drinking right here. This is a Ukrainian one. It's
Oh yeah.
a Vedtorsky. I've been drinking this one for like 4 years or something. It's pretty good though.
Oh, I
It's
gotta watch out
it's
for
an
that.
amber lager, but it's like 7%. It's pretty smooth.
Interesting.
But I like
Yeah.
the ryes myself. The bourbons are pretty nice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
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 Those are- nice little drink. I was watching that show. I don't know if you've seen Primal, the cartoon. Have you
Yeah,
seen
that's
that?
that. Yeah, that's Gendy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like aspects of it, and then other aspects I don't like.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would drink that with it, and I don't know. That first episode's pretty solid, right?
Oh, the first episode's great.
Right?
The first
Okay.
three I really liked,
Yeah.
and then I was like, okay, start turning into something a little more. I gave it to like 5 or 6 episodes, and then on the 7th, I was like, all right, I'm kind of out. Some people told me that I should check back in.
Oh yeah. You gotta
yeah.
get back in there.
Yeah, because
Season
there's
2 is crazy, dude.
that's
It's like-
season 2. Yeah, people are saying
whoa.
season 2 is really good.
and it's definitive too, so it does have an ending now after 3. I've been telling the dudes at work about it, and like, oh wow, what? It's kind of cool too because it's like there's no spoken words in there. It's just animation, and it's primal. And,
That's the one part for me, and it's only because I do so much TV listening as opposed to watching a lot of the time, and I wish there was a little more dialogue because of it.
yeah.
But
There's one episode though, dude, in season 2, but I don't want to spoil too much though.
Okay.
But there's been stuff like storytelling that we've been talking about a little bit.
Oh,
on the
yeah?
show. A type of storytelling we've been talking about that he was gonna he didn't do, but he wanted to do for the 4th season, in theory. Anthology, that's the word.
okay.
But there's this one episode, dude, and you're like, if you watch it in the season 2, or I think it's 2 or 3, but it's pretty cool. And the show changes. It didn't go where I thought it was going to. But yeah, dude, hard recommend. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, people keep telling me I got to get back because season 2 was really good. So I'm sure one day I will. But yeah, it was good. It's just I wasn't a big fan of Samurai Jack.
I never watched Samurai Jack.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that, but I never.
It's the same thing. I think around the episode 6 or 7, I was just like, all right, I'm kind of done. But I'm more about like that dialogue-driven kind of mix with the action.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of more my sweet spot. So even with that, when it came to animated shows, it was, Batman animated series, but there was X-Men. To a lesser degree, I really love that Spider-Man 90s series as well.
I got them all.
Yeah, the Superman
I got 'em on
animated
VHS,
series, the Justice
dad
League
taped it.
animated series. Oh, yeah, those
I
were
have all of
great.
them taped in my garage from back in the day, dude.
Oh, man. Yeah. Those were a sweet spot for me. And then there's classic stuff that's from the 80s. Thundercats is a go-to for me. We were talking about Real Ghostbusters. I love that. A lot of solid shows from the 80s and 90s. And it was kind of... Yeah, the 2000s is kind of like hit or miss a lot of stuff for me.
Right.
But I know a lot of people really love Samurai Jack. I just could never really get too into it.
I
Then
never got into it.
Yeah.
I haven't even watched it yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude.
But yeah, a lot of great stuff out there. And nowadays, man, I don't know. Makes me feel super old being like, nowadays, everything sucks.
No, but it does. Like, for me, I'm like, nowadays, like, don't even make anything. Like, well, let's wait 10 more years.
Yeah, I look at so many... right? Yeah.
Don't make Solomon Kane. Let's wait 10 years.
Even seeing Keaton as Batman and people getting excited about it. That's great if you're excited about it, but to me, I'm like, man, I would have been really excited if it was like Batman Beyond and it was done at a different time period.
Yeah,
to see like an older Bruce Wayne. To see like kind of 70-year-old Michael Keaton in the bat suit, I just feel like, oh man.
Like I would have had him in the bat suit, like in the first episode, like how they had it on the, you know what I mean? Like where he got in there, he got beat to shit.
And
He got
he's
beat
like,
down.
oh God, like he's practically dying here. He's like, I need to
First
do
10 minutes of
something
the movie,
different. Yeah. And man, so it's just, I don't know. There's too many. It's true. It is true. I mean, I can't see how. Okay, so some people to go on the nostalgia thing. Some people go, oh well, you like certain things because of nostalgia. You grew up with whatever. There's tons of things I like right now that I didn't grow up with at all. I didn't even know they really existed until I was in like my 20s or 30s, and I absolutely love them. And it has nothing to do with growing up with, and if anything, my childhood was like all over the place, with like many other people's childhoods were all over the place too. So it's not like, oh, this reminds you of these happy times or some nonsense like that.
Right.
To me, if you can't look at certain things and definitively go, this is better than this, it has nothing to do with nostalgia. It has to do with the writing, the art, the production value, especially to me, a lot of the time when you talk about like movies and TV and whatever else, I find that there is severely lacking a heart to a lot of things.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And you can even look at old interviews. Look at the difference in interviews between like a 30-year-old Sylvester Stallone and a 30-year-old star of today.
Right.
Massively different mindset. Look at the difference between like a Jim Henson and whoever else you want to compare it to today. Whoever is leading some kind of CGI workshop,
right,
or whatever, is massively different people. And it's like things had so much heart because these people had so much heart. Like we were talking about before, these are people. A lot of these people went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of hardships that were overcome. They fought their way to get to where they were. Nowadays, it's not necessarily the same sort of thing. It's so that shapes what's created, the output from these people. You don't get as much of that heart. You don't get as much of that kind of communication coming forth from what your experience was to now what you're putting out there, because quite frankly you didn't really experience all that much. I mean, the things I see people complain about nowadays that are like rich and famous and whatever, and it seems like they're grasping at straws to paint themselves as like victims. And then meanwhile, you'll look up, like one of my favorite entertainers of all time is Dean Martin. And you look up the stuff that like Dean Martin went through and how he grew up and like what his teenage years were like and then what his 20s were like and all the different things that he had to like do to kind of be scrappy and survive. And you learn your way around everything you could do to shape the life that you're going to eventually have. And you don't know you're going to have that life. You're just kind of trying to survive and do what you can do. And then to have like all these various hardships in your life later on. But meanwhile, you don't hear about any of that or see any of that because that's not what it's about. It's not about going out there and, telling people like, I'm the biggest sad sack you've ever met in your whole life. It's about overcoming, and
perseverance.
And we all go through stuff, and everybody again, like, but to expect to not just go, hey, I'm going to use this as a relatable moment to say I've been through stuff, I know where you're at, and it gets better. Instead of doing that and using it to be relatable and inspirational, they constantly want to be putting themselves in this perpetual state of just being like a sad victim.
Yeah, the victimhood.
I mean, it's the strangest thing, and it's only like this modern phenomena, really, if you think about it. I can't remember it anyway, and when I was growing up, it's like the past 5 to 10 years where you really see a lot of this, especially from successful people. You'll see a lot of, I was poor and I was at my wit's end and, whatever, and just giving it my all. You hear a lot of those stories that have more of an inspirational uptick about, working hard and trying to achieve something, stuff that's relatable that we could all relate to. We're all underdogs. But nowadays it's really like, don't you feel bad for me? Like, doesn't everybody just feel bad for the very rich, successful person? It's like, I don't know how they could do it.
Can't relate to that either.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not relatable unless like you yourself share that kind of egomaniacal narcissism that they have.
Exactly.
To me, it's far more relatable to say something along the lines of, you faced racism, or you faced bigotry, or you faced whatever it is, and hey, you came out the other side, and yeah, sure, there's some bad people out there, but not everybody's bad, There's a lot of good people out there too, and everyone, good or bad, they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, and genders, and whatever the hell you want to say. It doesn't. There's no anything prescribed to anything. But nowadays, I guess that doesn't really sell as well as it used to. Although I still think it would. I think people would love to hear something like that. I think it would be refreshing.
Yeah. Well, people would like to hear it. It's just the majority, like people, like in general, like they would love to hear that, but that's just not the way that like Hollywood puts things out, right? Like it's just they have certain things that they want to say just because of whatever reason behind it. But the populace, the majority, they're open to anything. You know what I mean? Especially if it's coming from the heart and the soul. It's coming from a true place.
100%. You could have any kind of gender or sexuality or whatever of a character, and make them a very relatable, successful character, as long as you're keeping in mind that they have a shared human experience, and you're not just reducing them to their sexuality or their gender.
Right, and that's what their character is.
And creating this one-dimensional thing. Yeah. And then to further not just reduce them to that, but then also say that they're some kind of second-class human being and should be forever pitied because of that. It's like, or given favor to.
Yeah.
It's hard to relate to a realistic human being who lives and breathes that behaves that way, let alone a fictional character.
Or they're not even human at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they don't humanize,
Exactly.
They're not relatable because they're something else.
Yeah.
In that narrative,
Yeah. They're a caricature at that point, and it's a shame to see that kind of stuff played up. And it's even more of a shame to see some people buy into it. But it's I guess it's an easier thing than it is to say, hey, you're going to work your ass off. You should. You're going to try to do as good as you can. And you're going to also try to understand that sometimes it just still doesn't work out.
Yeah, and you're not going to win, and that's okay. And you could come back and try again. And sometimes you're going to be the winner, and sometimes you're going to be the loser. But again, give it your best shot. And that's why there's winners, and that's why there's losers. Some people work a little harder and they deserve it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the whole point.
People are being fed this kind of lie that they see people who are successful, and they are being fed a lie that these people have always been successful, always.
Right.
They wake up in the morning and they're just successful at everything, and it's been like that for their entire life. They don't see the 99% of everything else that's ever happened in that person's life where they were just losing it trying to come up with an idea of how the hell do I survive today, let alone be what's seen as successful. There's so much stuff that everybody goes through in their journey, and comparing constantly yourself to somebody else where they're at. And often people are comparing themselves to people who have come so far and been through so much, and now you're seeing the end result. You're seeing them cross the finish line, but you didn't see the blood, sweat, and tears and broken bones and that it took the whole rest of that marathon. You're just seeing them cross the finish line and going, man, why them and not me?
Yeah, you have no idea. Like,
look at the trail of everything they left behind, and then say, if you're ready to do what that person just did, then you can start. But if you're going to say, look at them, they crossed that finish line. Why can't I cross that finish line? They must have got there through some kind of unfair advantage. You're not looking at the whole picture. And I think nowadays people are unfortunately kind of fed that. It's kind of like, it feels so purposeful. It feels like it's supposed to divide people constantly.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
The more that we're divided, I guess we can't unite and get pissed off at them.
Scared and patient and and numb. I think that's the whole point. Like,
Oh yeah.
Some people that have more power than us, possibly.
Yeah, and
My
it's
humble opinion.
well, it's funny too because and that's why I think they go so hard against certain superhero narratives, because superhero stuff is all about the empowerment of the self
Yep.
and the perseverance and sacrifice of the individual. Everything else is an obstacle. That's why there's so few of these books that are, what do you do if you have a book with the villain as the lead? It becomes really difficult until you want to start to humanize them in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, then it's just about them constantly coming up with something bad to do.
Yeah.
You're going to start making the surrounding world look a lot better. And I mean, you could do that if a skilled writer was prone to do it.
Yeah.
But, so they come after these sort of things because it feels as if, and I don't want to necessarily say this is what's happening, but it sure as hell feels like it, that it's all about depowering the individual constantly.
Yeah.
Because every single thing is about how you can't actually do something unless you empower the powerful. So unless you vote in the right person, unless you complain to the right authority, unless you give them more power to fix your woes and your problems, then nothing will ever be fixed for you. But the funny thing is they already have a lot of power and nothing is being fixed.
Right.
Giving them more power won't fix it. Instead of turning around and going, well, you have the capacity to do something still.
For yourself.
Do something.
Yeah, exactly.
And by doing that and saying, hey, you can actually do something, that empowers the individual. And the more individuals that are empowered, the better off everything is. And all of a sudden you go, well, why the hell do we need them? if
Right.
we can all just do it, and all it is about just doing something, just trying our best to make things better. We don't need to vote in the right person or have them, sign the right bill of law or, do whatever. It's about the fact that you can do something.
Yeah, for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's really I don't know, like you just got to be a good person, do things for yourself, maybe create, but don't spend too much time worrying about that. Like, I really feel like it's kind of a lot of ways out of your hands. I mean, like, I feel like it's kind of preordained in some ways for.
Yeah, because they're going to do what they're going to do.
They're going to do that. They're going to do their thing, and you got to do your own thing and kind of find your path and what you want to do. And if you're a creator, create something,
Yeah.
And I don't want to say like worry about yourself and be like self-centered, but I mean, get out there and do something, create something, give some art back to the world in that way. And I don't know, man, it could be a lot better than living in that world that really doesn't exist, in that world that no one really cares about, that you care so much about.
Well, especially because for them to have the power that they have, you have to surrender it to them.
Yeah.
And as if everyone kind of woke up and realized it, and even that they take those words, they take woke. It used to be awake. You were awake.
Yeah.
They take woke and they turn it into something, and they make it divisive, and make it what they want to make it. And that's on purpose, to take those words, take whatever words, even
Split.
diversity,
Yeah.
And then all of us, it's funny that the more diversity is pushed, the more things look the same. The more things everywhere become homogenized.
Divert. Yeah, no.
Yeah, because all of a sudden becomes you have to, in order to be diverse, you must follow these specific things. So you must all be the same in order to be diverse. Which is like, okay, that's not diverse.
No. Yeah, exactly.
But that's the new law of those in power, as long as you let them have it. But that's the thing, you have to let them have it. So while we still can, it's so important for people that can see it. Be you. Do what you got to do. Put yourself out into the world. Lean into who you are.
Exactly.
Tell the stories you want to tell. Make the art you want to make. And fully be expecting that people aren't going to give a shit. They're going to give you a hard time for it. And you're probably going to have more failures than successes. But that doesn't matter. Keep doing it. Keep being you.
And like Mike Barron says, dude, you're gonna shit out a lot of shit, and that's gonna happen sometimes for a lot of people. You're gonna put out a lot of shitty art, probably, and a lot of shitty stories, but you got to do that as part of the process. And you got to overcome it, and then you're gonna get better. You're gonna get
Yeah.
better, and then talk to
If
people.
you've got something inside of you that is saying, no, this
Drive.
has to go out into the world. This, I have to do this. You know, this
Yep.
is as who I am, as breathing. You know, do it. You got to be you. And we don't get a lot of that kind of encouragement nowadays. We get a lot of this kind of stuff that feels more about it's easier to bring everybody else down than it is to lift yourself up.
Oh
And
yeah, man, 100%.
it's such a shame. I was a substitute teacher for 4 years. I saw it was when the anti-bullying stuff was taking off. It was between like 2010 to like 2013. And man, oh man, it was not like the bullying auditorium meetings when I was a kid, which was about, you know, boosting your self-esteem. Don't listen to the bullies, you know, like that kind of thing. And like the
Right,
bullies, you know, stop being a bully. You know, it was that kind of thing of like, this is bad. Stop picking on each other. And if
Right.
you're getting picked on, you know, don't buy into what they're saying. Don't believe the stuff that they're saying. You know, and these kind of perspectives that we're given. The anti-bullying stuff was all about empowering authority, turning everybody against each other, saying that your friends aren't your friends, creating this society of like distrust among kids. And it was so disheartening to see it happen right in front of me. And I would get these kids in the classes and they'd be like tattling on each other left and right nonstop because they were told to. It's mind-blowing, man. And that was what, about 10 years or so ago.
Damn.
Now all those kids that were like in the middle school, like 12 years old or so, now they're like 22, 23 years old.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and all I could think is them growing up in this constant state of at school being told like your friends aren't your friends, distrust each other, trust the authority figure, you know, don't have your own judgment, don't work out your own problems. You know, if I mean, I saw kids getting suspended, and these were friends, because they were just kind of giving each other like little shoves in the hall. You know, and they were friends 100%. And when the teacher was like, hey, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're just joking around. And they're like, you know the rules. And they sent them off to the, and then I see them a week later and I'm like, where you guys been? And they're like, oh, we got suspended. Like, you got suspended for just like giving each other little shoves in the hall as friends?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my Lord.
It's
so
it's this life, dude. Like, and they're, again, you know, like life's hard, and they're trying to. It's just a victimhood mentality, man. Like, you just gotta have to face life.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you're gonna have to. That's what life is. You know, life is mostly these things. Like, you're gonna face a lot of shit. You know, and it depends on how you're gonna deal with it. That's what life's about.
Yeah. How are you gonna overcome it? How are you gonna dig deep and overcome?
Right.
You know, this problem that's in front of you, as opposed to.
It's not going anywhere, like, for the most part, you know? So
right?
Are you going to be happy today or mad or sad? Like, you could dictate how you want to do it, but it's not really going to go anywhere. You're going to have these cool moments of, like, that's what life is. It's made up of all these awesome or bad moments. That's what life is to me, you know? And how are you going to react to these moments? Are you going to be happy in your skin and who you are? Or are you going to be mad and aggressive and pissed and scared and feeling a victim? You know, I tell my kids that all the time, you know, like, it's just the way you see it, you know?
Even that whole thing, pushing being a victim, is like, you just are saying by being a victim, you surrendered your power. You surrender who you are, and now someone else is telling you who you are.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Nope. No, you know, sometimes a little shove ain't, you know, it's just a little shove. It's nothing crazy, you know, and you move on from it, you know? And that's life. And that's just getting you ready for life. So.
Absolutely. You know, but hey, you know, that's the thing. I love that we can tell stories. We can make these types of things, put them out into the world, and hopefully they plant these little seeds, you know, and then you do these awesome things, and hopefully they maybe inspire someone else or give them their own aspirations, and then they can achieve something, and then it kind of all of a sudden starts to reverse some of the damage that's being done out there. That
I think so. I think it has to start somewhere, right? And I think what we're doing is it's starting at that point, you know, and everything needs a catalyst, and for there to be a reverse effect or somewhere new to travel as a society and the way that we see things and the way that we interpret our books that we read for this particular instance. We have to start somewhere, right? And if we have like kids or something, maybe we should show them at least if they look at it. Oh, this is cool. Maybe I'm gonna do it. And that again, it starts from somewhere, and it has to start from us. It does.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't you can't let somebody else dictate your life and the life of the people you care about. Like, be there for each other and be there especially for yourself, and just put out something positive. And that's thank you for having me on tonight, man. It's been a good talk, and not just about comics, but about everything in between, everything that goes into making these comics.
I told you we were going to talk. We talk a little bit on here, so
yeah. Hey, no problem, man. I'm here for it.
And anytime you want to come back, I'd love to have you on again. There's a bunch of different things we could talk about, but I love talking about King Cryptid, and maybe when the next one launches in the summer, you can come back again. We can talk about the next
we'll do that.
Of Cryptid.
Yeah, man.
That'd be sick. So
awesome. Well, thank you, man.
Oh, for sure, man. Where can people find you, Pete?
They can find me on. I hate telling people to go to Twitter,
Hey,
but you can find me on there if you're there.
Yeah.
If you're not on there, you don't have to worry about it. If you're watching right here, you can find me on YouTube instead. Just youtube.com/Peter Cimedi, or the Alternate Comics channel as well. But yeah, I'm on the, where is that? Right there on Twitter at Peter Cimedi, or if you're on Instagram, Peter Cimedi Art. But other than that, I mean, thank you guys for watching tonight, and thank you guys if you supported King Cryptid, if you support anything at Alterna as well, thank you. And if you're supporting just independent creators in general that are out there trying to tell some awesome stories and their perspectives on things and be creative, thank you guys for doing that too. It's so important.
Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Pete for coming on. Go back King Cryptid. You guys are gonna love it. It's you need it in your life. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. Always remember everybody to be bold, be brave, and roll the bones to know your role. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.